Hello and welcome to the Inbetween podcast. I'm your host, Joe. I'm Johnny Bird. Tony turns it out to you. Are you, Tony?
I'm doing very well. Ray tracing set to high. I'm doing good.
Ray tracing. Unfortunately, I've set myself to path tracing, so I'll be
Oh
running
no!
at 5 FPS for the rest of the
I
podcast.
mean, it looks good, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of path tracing, and I had a pretty good experience with frame generation in Portal RTX. So hopefully, if AMD gets their frame generation solution through, and we can see like some more advanced use cases for frame generate, or it becomes something more commonplace, and we can get rid of the latency hits a little bit, or just general smoothness and make it feel better. I
Yeah.
think it could be a very useful technology to enable us to use stuff like this path tracing stuff.
More AI. I know AI is a buzzword, but I think
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm using deep like AI is like the wrong word here. Just like tensor cores and just like that sort of like node
I mean, you
based
know what we're doing right
weird
now? We haven't
logic.
done in a very long time.
Tangerine?
Oh well, if you want to start recording Tangerine, that's good. But we're recording the podcast on a Sunday,
Oh yeah, no,
the
yeah.
wrong Sunday,
It's the yeah.
but
It
a
is a Sunday.
Sunday. Is there anything you wanted to talk about before we get into the news?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna wait until next time.
Oh, okay. There's something big coming up, is there?
Uh, maybe.
And that's the
It
tease.
might be the next time after next time, but yeah.
Um. Oh, I wanted to uh, talk about quickly. Sorry, I just remembered a piece of news in my head, and I was like, I want to talk about this, but I didn't set it up, so I'll just grab it now.
Is this the source is in your head?
No, I just thought,
Oh,
what have I been doing? I've been doing anything in the Steam Deck. Oh, there's a piece of Steam Deck news I wanted to talk about this week, which is actually pretty cool, which will be like a beta thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything like tech related I've been doing recently. I don't think so. I played VR. I've actually got a lot more
what?
space for VR now.
Your VR is back.
Yeah, and guess what I played?
Gorilla Tag.
No,
Oh.
an even better game for lobbies full of children.
Oh, VR chat.
No, the new one.
I don't know.
Among Us VR.
Oh, okay.
I played a bunch of Among Us VR with my friend Andy, and
Right.
it was as I predicted. I was like, this is going to be the next Gorilla Tag where there's just going to be lobbies full of children. If I
Yeah.
sound more echoey, by the way, it's because I'm literally have like nothing in my room because I just like, let's just have a bunch of space for VR. Um, I played a little bit of Among Us VR. I need to play some more VR actually because I just finished my wheel. If you don't know, I had a thing where I was just every game I played, I was asking a bunch of my friends to recommend me a game to play, and then I was spinning a wheel and playing their game through until I finished it, or the game sucked and I didn't. And then
Yeah.
I was going on to the next one and spinning the wheel and well. But now I have freedom back, so I can choose what I want to play. We need to do a tangerine soon at the wheel because I finished the wheel and I have this folder full of games that I've not talked about yet.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
so
yeah,
we'll quest complete.
yeah, and I will share my experience with it. It's been a mixed bag. Some people I'm like, you just have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When it comes to games recommendations, some people I'm like, oh, I never would have played this, and it's very interesting. And then some things are like, people picked at random, and I'm like, oh, well, I kind of like this. So
I
let's
bet.
see.
Well, yeah. Well, I kind of picked at random, and it's kind of weird how I accidentally picked a game that I really want to play now.
Yeah,
Not.
that was an interesting
It's
one because
weird.
that was a game I wouldn't have ever played myself, probably. So
Yeah. I
that
think.
that's the cool experience of the wheel. Was sometimes there's games that I never would have picked for myself because they're not necessarily in genres or it's something I've been looking at very closely, and then I
Yeah.
would play them like, oh, there's some kind of cool things in this. So
Yeah, but the one I picked, because you streamed it on Discord, like me and Squirrel Retorts were
The
watching. Like
Neon Tales of the Neon Sea. That's the
yes,
game.
but he stopped watching it because he wanted to play it himself,
Yeah, I think generally I had a
which is
good time with that
crazy.
game, despite the fact that it was a point and click adventure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is
Um,
like a puzzle, linear point and click adventure. It wasn't anything more complex than that. It was interesting though.
um, what was I saying? VR. So I played. I still really want to play Half-Life VR. I have not. I played Among Us VR, and then I was like, I need to sit down. And I was like, no, I can play a little bit more VR. So I played Fruit Ninja VR, and then I put my
Okay.
VR away for a bit. So well, I don't put it away. I have it like permanently set up, but I'm getting old now, so I can only stand up for so long. I
Oh
know, like
no.
my friend Andy, he literally sits down the entire time he plays
Oh really?
VR, and I feel like that's such a betrayal of VR. Every time I do, I
Well, it depends what
understand.
game you're playing.
I understand like the accessibility, people get tired and stuff, but anytime I'm playing VR, I always want to be standing up. I
Oh,
drive standing up in like LA
that's weird.
Noire VR and stuff
I
like that. I think it's so
that's
funny driving standing up. It's
yeah.
so funny to me. Um,
It really
but
has a
I just
Segway
love
vibes.
I love the room scale thing of being able to walk around and physically look at stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but
I
yeah,
wouldn't want to remove that.
I am slowly getting back into VR. I have the space. I have the setup. I have the games. I need to get back into it. So let's talk about trailers. And the first one we have is Vampire Survivors DLC Tides of the Foscari launch. I wanted to specifically talk about this trailer because I believe it's the voice actor from what's that game called? Disco Elysium, and they have this big epic like anime trailer, and I'm just like, and then it switches to the gameplay and it's Vampire Survivors, and I'm like, this really does not like match the intensity of the
No,
trailer versus like the actual like the actual gameplay of the game itself. I mean, it's cool. I love Vampire Survivors. I think it's a great like indie
and
hit
I
that
love
came out like
anime.
last year, and really cool to see that this is their second expansion, right? They did a moon one, and it's still like I think I looked. There was a bundle on Steam where I could because I have the base game. And it's like you can get both of the DLCs, and it was like £2 or £3, and the game itself cost like £2 or £3. Like they could have gone ultra greedy with this, and they didn't, which is like something I really respect about the devs. Like
Yeah,
they didn't just fucking completely cash out the game, sort of thing. And they even have a completely free to play version on mobile, so that they made like I think it was like around the end of last year or something. So that's pretty cool to see. But respect to them. Next up, Half-Life 2 Entropy Zero is getting uh, a mod like expansion sort of thing that's focusing on another civil protection cop called um, Uprising. That looks pretty cool.
okay.
Uh,
So it's different. So same time but different perspective.
yeah,
Okay.
let's have a look. It's on ModDB as well. Um,
Oh, we're getting
so
trailers for mods
you're
now.
in
It's
the middle
huge.
of the uprising. This modification for Entropy Zero. Cool to see. I think you can just so this one because I played Entropy Zero 1 and 2 on Steam. Because they have their own official Steam store pages, but I think this one is a ModDB exclusive. Guys, it's a ModDB exclusive,
Is that okay?
which I do think is legitimately a barrier for entry for some people,
Yeah,
myself included. I mean, I play like Map Labs a lot of the time on ModDB, but I would love if like fucking Map Labs was on Steam. It would be so much easier to download like Map Labs
yeah.
updates and the new map packs from that. It would be so much easier to do that sort of stuff if we could. Like it's so much easier when mods are on Steam. But it's cool to see, and it seems like it's released in early access on April 9th, and it seems pretty positive from what people have been saying, so that's really cool to see. And then we have our final trailer here, Tony. Trine 5. Did you expect this one? So we've got Trine 5, A
Uh,
Clockwork Conspiracy. There's a brand new Trine game coming out
okay.
uh, to
So,
PC, all the consoles,
was it
out this summer.
was it Train 4 that was bad? Was it Train 3? One of them was like not well received.
I can look now. Trine 3. Let's have a look. I think it was Trine 4.
I thought it was trying for, yeah.
Let me double check on its Steam reviews. The Trine, no, it's Trine 3. Trine 3 has mixed reviews, right? Was Trine 3 was the full 3D one, which people really didn't like. And then for Trine 4, I think they went back to 2.5D. Yeah.
Right.
Which people like. I have like Trine 3 and Trine 4, but I've never played. I think
I will. Yeah, I will say,
them.
like, looking at even this trailer, I think I'm not sure if this is a problem necessarily, but it's definitely something to point out. Like, a lot of the puzzles are very similar to the games, and like you're kind of playing it for the story, and I guess in this case, there's like more interesting bosses.
So I remember I played the hell out of like Trine 2. I think that game.
Yeah.
I believe I played Trine 1. But I just
we
never
played Trine 1. I can't remember. Like,
I think we've played one of the Trines together.
I also played it.
They're great
little. Retorts.
They're great little like co-op games.
Yeah.
It was exciting to see a new one coming out. I think this will be like a really fun time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. The fourth one was positive.
I will say from the trailer, the bit I'm actually more excited is like the bosses kind of look interesting, but the rest of it kind of looks again like similar puzzles that we've already seen before. But that might not be a bad thing. It's like up to you. But
all right, next up we have releases. So straight up, we have our first release that came out recently. On the 28th of March, The Last of Us Part 1 came out on PC, Tony, and this has been a very mixed release for this game. So, let's get into this. It's looking extremely rough for this game. On launch day especially, like, we're having reports of extremely long shader compilations, lots of crashes. I mean, my friend just bought a RX 79,000 XT and he got this game bundled, and he was doing the shader. Yeah, so they're doing that The Last of Us bundled because it's an AMD sponsored game. Which is why I believe it doesn't have DLSS. I think it has FSR maybe, but it doesn't have DLSS. I'm fairly sure.
I thought even if you're sponsored, I think you should just add. I know it's more expensive and like it takes more development time, but like I just think you should add every single AI feature at this point, just so you're not like locked into one card company.
I could be wrong. Let me double check.
I wouldn't be surprised either way, to be honest. So I have seen.
I've got new blinds in this room, and I think it's confusing the hell out of my cat. I'm not sure.
New blinds.
Come on, Tony.
I feel like you walking through C17.
I am. Yes, I'm just doing a quick. I'm doing a quick rebellion through C17.
Well, you're kind of like. I
was talking to my friend Calvin the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you got it. That's C17 behind you, dude. What the hell?"
Well, I was gonna. Can I? I know this is a kind of sacrilege, but you're kind of doing a Jemadar like a cloaking sort of thing going through it. It was kind of weird.
You'll love to see it.
That's a Star Trek Deep Space Nine reference, by the way.
Oh, I was watching Creator Clash. This is complete tangent. I was watching Creator Crash yesterday, the influencer boxing thing from iDubbbz. One of the fighters came out to the Star Trek Voyager theme, and I was like, "This is so based." I was so confused at the time because he came out with a bunch of like Avengers characters with him, and it was playing the Star Trek Voyager theme. And I was like, "Does he know this is not the Avengers theme? That this is Star Trek Voyager's theme?" And then I was like, I looked on his Twitter and he was like, "No, I'm going out to the Star Trek Voyager theme. I'm a big Star Trek fan." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." There might be DLSS. I can't confirm whether DLSS is in it. I think there might be. I don't know.
There might be, but I wouldn't be surprised if like that. There have been other cases where it's like they've been sponsored by Nvidia or AMD and they haven't added the other one for either ages or never. So. But I do think it's good form to have all of them because you don't like they work best with the cards they were designed for. These features and stuff. So
Maybe it does. Anyway. Um, but yeah, it seems like it's been having a lot of extremely. Like, I had a friend who got the game and was saying like he was leaving. That he'd never launched the game because he's never got past the shader compilation step.
Really?
Yeah, and it kept
Oof.
like crashing for him in the shader compilation step. And I know shader compilation steps are usually CPU based, and he has a pretty weak CPU.
Right.
So maybe that's that. Oh, so I don't know if you know something. Initially, this game was Steam Deck verified before it came out, and I was like, "How the fuck was this ever Steam Deck verified?" Have you seen some of the memes for the Steam Deck verified version?
No, I have not seen. I've not.
Click on. This was the Steam Deck
Oh my
verified,
god!
but this was the Steam Deck version of Joel on The Last of
What the
Us.
hell happened? Is that a shader compilation issue? What
That's
the
just
hell?
like a rendering, like a low resolution rendering issue, I think.
Is that what he does
Um,
at distances? He? Okay.
low polygon Joel can't hurt you. Um, so I don't know if you know. So Valve has actually changed this game from verified to now unsupported. They've completely removed it from the game. Um, and it looks like Steam's actually accepting refunds for The Last of Us, regardless of playtime, based on how terrible the launch happened. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the most interesting things about The Last of Us right now is it is a VRAM eater. It absolutely devours VRAM, and it's like we've been seeing for a long time when the 3070 came out with 8 GB of VRAM, or the 3080 came out with like 10 GB of VRAM. People were saying, look, 8 GB is not a lot of VRAM these days. We're actually going to start to see like a
Yeah.
big change in how our games are rendered. It's going to be more on the VRAM. This is not enough. And we have,
Especially like there's more layers for ray tracing for like textures and
and we're
things.
seeing like 1080p like ultra settings using, 12 GB of
Yeah.
VRAM in some cases, stuff like that. Like believe the consoles kind of have 12 gig, but it's like shared memory pool, so it's not really
I thought
VRAM.
I thought they could definitely you have to like trade off using CPU, but they could definitely use 10 gigs, I thought, and then like it could sort of use 12.
Not the
I
same, like,
can't I can't quite remember like how it traded off those now.
but we've seen VRAM issues with Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
We've seen it with another. What was the other game that came out recently that was having VRAM issues? Was it Callisto Protocol? Was that one that was eating
Yeah,
VRAM?
it had shader compilation issues. I don't know if it was I think it might have been a VRAM hog. I can't remember now.
Anyway, but it seems like apparently the Last of Us is also one of the most multi-threaded games out there as well. Like if you have like a super beefy CPU, it's actually able to use way more of the CPU than many other games, which is kind
Interesting.
of interesting.
That's
Because
yeah, that's
generally you
actually
don't
cool.
see that at all.
That's actually really good. That's also indicative of the future, I suppose. Like,
I, I
yes, we
always
need more VRAM, more cores.
I always find it really funny when Valve does this thing where they're like, "Oh, we'll put it on Steam. Can we have like a Left 4 Dead shirt and a Portal shirt?" And they're like, "Yeah, whatever. We don't care. Just Just use it right. Final Fantasy Gordon outfit for Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, okay, we don't care.
Go on then.
But it seems like people are just unable to run this game. I mean, essentially, a lot of what was happening, though, from what I believe, right, is people are bringing up the game at like 1080p. They're going, oh, it doesn't matter how much VRAM I have. I run everything on Ultra, but I'm only running
Yeah,
it in 1080p, so it's fine. Then they're running into this VRAM issue. I think one of the issues is High looks almost identical to Ultra, but is offering like way better performance.
yeah.
And this is a problem with many gamers like
I
mindsets
need an
right now.
ultra.
I have to run a game on the highest setting, otherwise I'm not really running the game.
Even though I don't necessarily think this game is doing this, but
Yeah.
like ultra is like ultra. When a game comes out, ultra cannot be run properly on current generation cards. It's for future proofing
I will
for
we'll,
future
we'll
cards.
talk about it later, but stuff like Cyberpunk overdrive mode with the full like path tracing
Yeah,
rendering, that's meant for, the very top end cards with the frame generation,
Yeah.
high DLSS
Or
on,
future cards in the
or future
future.
card. It's like a future. It's like,
Yeah.
Crisis was built with future computers in mind.
Yeah. So
Um,
new, yeah. If you have a current, what I'm saying is, you have a current generation card. Don't. I mean, try and run it on ultra, but don't be disappointed if you can't. Just accept that it's high, and high is still fantastic normally, unless it's not, unless it's a shit like setting scaling. But that's
uh,
kind of that's kind of what it normally means. Like if you're
not.
playing an older game with current generation card, you can probably play an ultra. If not, like you have to play
I
in
don't know if
high.
you saw some of like the discourse about this game, but I believe it was ported by Ion Galaxy. And people were saying like, "Oh, Iron Galaxy was, the reason Naughty Dog, they fucked up. They shouldn't have let Iron Galaxy port this." I mean,
Right.
um, but there's a misconception right now that Iron Galaxy um, was responsible and they ruined it. But it seems like Naughty Dog did a lot of the lifting as well, porting the game to PC. Like it is a
Yeah,
joint effort.
either was joint
And
effort, and also like it still could be a problem with like how much time they had. Like they might have been like just had a
And
deadline.
I mean, like, if they really wanted this to be a premier project, they probably should at least talk to Nixus Software from the internal
Mm.
PlayStation studios and say, hey, Nixus has been doing a fantastic job porting games to PC.
Yeah,
You should talk to these developers and figure out
but
what techniques they were using so you could pass this knowledge along. Or,
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think Nixes came along and they took the Horizon Zero Dawn original port and they sort of fixed that up and helped them turn that port around.
yeah. It is difficult like to port to PC, but my thing is like even if you couldn't do that for whatever internal reason, like surely your QA would have tested this and gone, it runs like shit. We can't put it out there. We have to delay this game. Like I don't. I just think this whole it's I don't know. I guess it's like a business philosophy of like I'll just put it out there. It's like no, delay it. It's not ready. You should not. It
No,
should not never been released.
have you seen that someone's already made like a first person mod for The Last of Us Part 1?
Well, they managed to run the game. Okay. No, I haven't seen. So people already started modding, have they?
I mean, people have already been modding like random shit into the game. I
I
think
would
one of the big
Is
one was
this?
they were modding like the TV show characters into it.
Yes. But I was thinking some of the earliest mods that I normally see is like it's like model changes, texture changes, and because there's this one thing they just moved the camera to like the actual face of the NPC and then like locked it to wherever the camera was facing. Jesus Christ, do they those
There's
bow and
there's
arrows
a work
explode?
in progress at the moment. We'll have to see how this turns out. I mean,
It
I don't
looks like it's
ex.
attached to the character.
Hmm. I mean, like usually when you have like these cameras that just get attached to the character. I mean, GTA 5 has this where they have like this really janky implementation of
Yeah,
first person mode where
yeah.
it's cool that it's a feature that you can use, but I almost never
It,
use it because it is
yeah.
so janky and the game is so built
I am.
around being a third person cover based shooter that it almost
Oh
makes
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
worse to play in first person. Where I assume a similar thing would be the case with The Last of Us, where the game is so built around being a third person game that it wouldn't be a great experience
I
trying it, but
think
it's interesting to see.
from my I mean okay from my experience with Elder Scrolls modding, like early first person camera enhancers and things and third person enhancers, like both of them were very flawed. But as I think as modders got more advanced or more expertise with it, and they realized the stuff that was missing from other games, like I think there's incremental stuff you can add that like enhance the experience way more than you would expect. I think, but yeah, there are certain things that you have to tie into the rest of the game to make it work
I mean, I
properly.
think
So it's
recently
not
that
simple.
there was that mod that made Half-Life Alex playable in not in VR, and I'm just
Right.
like, yeah, okay, cool, but like you're completely missing the point of the game, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
it is designed to be an interactable VR adventure, and if you
Yeah.
take away that element, you're kind of not getting the game.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's their choice, I suppose. But yeah, I get what you mean.
anyway, let's move on from
It,
The Last of Us. Um,
don't
next
don't
up,
buy it, I think is what we're saying,
next up
right?
we have March 28th. Sifu got its first Steam release. It's been out exclusively on Epic for a while now. I think maybe like a year or so, and it is now officially available on Steam. I mean, me and you have both talked about this game quite a lot.
Mm.
Saying it looks like a really cool game. I believe it got an update as well as part of this release.
I mean, I think my stance is that I'm still gonna play as Keanu
Keanu
Reeves.
Reeves with the mod, yeah.
I refuse to
The
play in any
Matrix
other
mod.
way. Yeah,
So they
it just
added
looks too
a
funny.
arenas expansion with this release on. It's a free update they added with the release of this on Steam. Um, so
The
9 new
combat is smooth.
locations spread over 5 modes. It's cool to see. I do want to play this at some point. I should. Do I have it
Yeah.
on my wish list? Yeah, it's on my wish list, so I'll pick it up when it goes on sale. That should be cool to see. Next up we have the Tony game. Terra Nil came out on March 28th.
Yeah, very exciting. I did see this come out. I haven't bought it yet. I mean, it's not
How much is it? It's
expensive
about
either.
£20 at the moment.
Yeah, it's
I believe
really.
one of the big complaints with this game was that people were saying it was about 4 hours long, was what I saw, which
Yeah, it's pseudo randomized levels, but yeah, if you because there's a campaign, right, and it's like you go through all there's not that many levels overall, but I don't know. I in my opinion they're replayable. I don't have a problem with this. I think it
wait a
looks
minute.
fantastic, and I
This
love the
isn't
concept.
from the developers of Genital Jousting, is it?
Is it?
Yeah, it's Free Lives.
Oh, okay.
The developers of Genital Jousting, what's it called? Not Dockers. Broforce, Angerfoot, Gorn. Just the most random fucking list of games that you could ever have, and they make this. I still want Terra Nil to be my background, like an
Yeah, yeah.
animated background. It is so.
If it was interactable background as well, that'd
I've
be nice.
looked on like Wallpaper Engine, and there's no Terra Nil backgrounds. Like I
Right.
want a Terra Nil background
There's
for my computer.
There's not that many application like background stuff in Wallpaper Engine. I've
But it's
discovered.
not just like there's no just like static animation or anything like that.
No, okay.
Kind of
You so
disappointing.
you'd be happy with just like a loopable GIF of like
Yeah,
of the background as well. Yeah, I think
I'd
it'd be
love
cool
an
if it was interactable as
interactable
well.
one, but
Hmm.
say. But yeah, it seems very positive from what people are saying. The main complaint was the campaign was a little bit short, but
Yeah.
I
It would be
still
nice.
think the
Don't get me
game
wrong.
is
It would be
very
nicer
good.
to have more. It's fantastic. But I think it's worth the price personally. But I'm still gonna wait for a sale.
Seems
But
like
it's fine
recently,
price.
Doinksoft, the developers of like Gunbrella and Kato Roboto, got recently
Hmm.
like integrated into Devolver, so they're actually like an
Oh.
official Devolver like developer now, which is cool to
Yeah,
see.
are they okay? Devolver seems to be going through like a
Because
yeah,
they made Devolver Bootleg, Milwaukee
right.
99 or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
You remember all the bootleg Devolver games?
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Dredge came out on the 30th of March. Horror-based fishing game. Need I say more?
Well, count me in. Wait, was it on your wish list?
Eldritch horror. Well, so as a rule of thumb, I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast. I only put games on my wish list that I can purchase because I had too many games on my wish list that were not available. So
Oh,
my rule of thumb is if a game's not out yet, I put it on follow so I can know when it
right, right,
releases, and then I put it
yeah,
on my wish list after it comes out, and I check out the
right.
reviews and see if I still
Okay.
am interested in purchasing the game. But I am very interested in purchasing Dread. It
I
is looking really good from the demo I played and from some of the gameplay I've seen on online people playing it. So
so is there even more in it than you saw in the
it looks really good so
trailer
far.
thing?
Let's have a quick look at the reviews. Um, I can highly recommend Dredge to anyone who suffers from gamer apathy or has trouble getting hooked in by games. Through simple, the core gameplay loop is fun and interactive, while the story pulls the player into an eldritch mystery that actually makes you have to problem solve for the story than any gameplay challenge mechanics. Overall, only complaint is there is not more Dredge to be played after finishing the game.
Uh,
This is probably one of the games where it's probably best to go into it blind, sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. This looks really cool. So interested to play this at some point. It's on my wish list now, so. Vertigo 2 came out 30th of March. It is the brand new sequel to the acclaimed Vertigo 1, which was called a very good VR game, gut shooter campaign sort of thing. I started to play Vertigo 2. Sorry, so I played Vertigo 1 a while ago, but I haven't finished it yet. I did get annoyed by some of the mechanics in it. I wonder if this is like improved on Vertigo or Vertigo remastered as I was playing, because they went back, because I believe the original release came out in like 2016 or something. Then
Oh
they
okay.
went back and added like improved VR stuff to the original release of Vertigo 1.
Yeah, it wasn't much hardware or different types of hardware in 2016, I suppose.
But people are saying it's on that like Half-Life Alyx Boneworks level, so that's really cool to see.
Oh okay.
Whenever people say that, I'm very wary of that actually being the case, because people get hyped on new game
Yeah, I
releases
guess.
very
Yeah.
often.
Okay.
But if it's anywhere close to being a good single player, this is the problem. We have stuff like, I mean, Half-Life Alyx is the go. You're
Yep.
not going to get a better single player VR made FPS campaign. This is one of my biggest problems with VRs. Is a lot of VR games are just experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They're good for like an hour of play where you just go and you mess around and you come out. Like I'll play Fruit Ninja VR for like 10 minutes and then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done with this
Or
game.
like Beat Saber, just like some
Yeah,
fun exercise.
but I love linear campaigns that have a
Yeah.
start and an end, and this is the
Yeah.
sort of stuff I want. So even if Vertigo
Interactable
2
stories.
is not up to the snuff of Half-Life Alyx, it will still be a win for me because we need more of this stuff in the gaming
Yep.
industry,
Yep.
especially in the VR
I don't
industry.
I don't want to say like real games versus like pretend games, but yeah, story games versus experience games. Yeah, we need more story VR games for sure.
Crab Champions came out on April 1st, and this is not a joke. This is a real game. I don't know if you remember this, but Noise Storm, the
I
developers
do
of the
remember
original
this.
Crab Rave animation song, said that they were
Mm-hmm.
going to make their own game based on the animation, and they did. They've made this like roguelite FPS,
I
roguelite
was
shooter,
yeah.
arena-based like shooter where you're basically a crab fighting against waves of enemies,
Can I just
which
say that
I
the
think
the
looks
movement
great.
yeah, the movement has. I was looking at this before, like, before the podcast went live, and it's like it looks better than it has any right to be, and the
Exact.
movement just looks
I've seen
great.
some people stream this on Twitch, and it actually looks like a really fun game. So interested to check this one out. Honestly, it's pretty cool that it was
So,
like it
do
sort of
you like
started out
games?
as like a joke meme thing, and has actually become like a pretty good-looking game.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Crab Rave animation. This is great as well. The Crab
Game
universe
has
is
better
real.
movement than most games I've played. Now, if you tell me the game has good movement, then immediately I'm in, because I love games with good movement.
Imagine if a crab game has good movement.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I like the picture of the crab, the ASCII crab.
The ASCII crap. Shout out to Apple. Not the company, the person.
The person Apple.
The person
Right,
Apple.
right.
This game looks pretty
So,
good. I'll add it to my wish list, actually, and then if it goes on sale, I might pick it up. But it looks like the problem. I'm trying not to buy any games recently because I just have so many fucking games. It's becoming a
mm-hmm.
problem buying new games. Next up, we have Passepartout 2 came out on the 4th of April. And it seems like it's been getting some very good reviews. I played the demo of this in the Demo Fest, and my notes were it's more Passepartout, but it's actually in a much better like structure and feels like it actually
Yeah,
has like a purpose. There's stuff to do, there's stuff to
it has a
upgrade.
game
You can move.
story
There's a game
mechanic.
around the painting mechanic,
Yeah,
which I'm like,
yeah,
that's a really good improvement from the first game.
yeah.
Um,
Per
so
purpose to painting. I quite like.
yeah, but yeah, it seems like people are very positive about this. They're talking about painting random shit. Seems like they've been getting some pretty good lengths out of the game. So yeah, seems like it might be a recommendation. It's on my wish list. I'll have to pick it up when it
There's no
goes on
way you can
sale.
paint the Eiffel Tower in the game. I
I would never.
refuse.
I would never. Next up, we have
You don't have to.
Meet Your Maker came out. I don't know if you remember talking about this. It's from the developers of Dead by Daylight, and it is essentially a base building game where you have to go and attack other people's bases and then build your
Yeah,
own base to defend it, sort of thing. Um, More interested to see where this game ends up in a couple of
yeah,
months, because the thing with
yeah.
these sort of games is it's always about the amount of people playing. I mean, currently we have 1.6k people playing, which is pretty good.
My old concern
All-time
still
peak is
exists.
3k.
I will say that because there's no like single player campaign with this, is there? Like
I
like
don't
it's
believe so.
entirely multiplayer from what I remember. I
Oh,
I know that
somebody says a negative was it does not require you to beat your own maps before putting them online, which means
that's
you
cheese the
could
system.
potentially put an unbeatable map up or like a glitchy broken map up on the
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
online.
That's a
I
problem
did
that needs to be
I did
fixed.
always find it really funny when if you have you ever seen people playing Super Mario Maker where
I've never watched them, no.
in order to upload your map on Super Mario Maker, you have to beat it in order to upload it. But people would
Yeah.
create like expert maps that were really, really hard, and you would get the concept of the dev door. And the dev door would be a hidden door somewhere that the dev could use to quickly complete the map, so he didn't actually have to run through it and complete it himself. Which I always thought was hilarious that these dev doors exist. Yeah, might
But
be a good feature.
I was gonna
Uh,
say is though, like I do think these sort of games should have a single player. I know that what would happen if the multiplayer kicked off, like you play a single player and never play the single player again with most people.
yeah.
But I do think
I mean, it future proofs the
it's a
game because
draw.
if the multiplayer for the game dies, you can still play the single player mode. It
Yes.
would be a good
I
feature.
reject the idea that the single player is not replayable. Like I know there's a lot of people are like, oh, I only play multiplayer. That's fine, and I appreciate that. And I just think that I'm not asking for like something like deep. I just want something like here are some maps like that kind of like some sort of campaign for you to complete, and like then like you will have them ways to like try and defend against or something. Like I don't want like cinematics or voice acting or anything. I just think
Next
oh
up,
something.
we have War World from April 5th, and I looked at this and I went, Dome Keeper? What the
Wallkeeper.
Walking? So it seems like I assume there was a similar idea going on around the time Dome Keeper was in development, and they've somehow come up with similar ideas, or it could be inspiration from Dome Keeper, but it seems like
Either
very
way,
similar concept where it's a
yeah,
roguelite mining game where you have to defend a dome from waves of enemies. Um,
but it
which
moves.
I think the Dome Keeper game itself is a really cool concept, and we've seen other games inspire different concepts. Like Vampire Survivors was very popular, and then we got stuff like Brotato, 20
Yeah,
Minutes Till Dawn, stuff like
I
that. Where we even had like a humble bundle just came out recently called Survivor-like games, where it's
right.
almost spawned an entire genre of games, sort of thing. Will
I really like the
the
concept of
do-
this game.
the dome genre pop off after
I
Warworld
feel
came out?
like because I think my problem with a lot of Vampire Survive like games is that they look too similar to me.
Yeah,
Whereas this has like a slightly different. I don't know. I could see, but I want to play both games basically. Like this looks great and Dome Keeper looks great.
yeah.
And
Oh,
they look very different.
speaking of humble bundle, there was a Boomer Shooter bundle that came out that I got that was really good. It was Best of Boomer Shooters Bigger and Boomier that I
Okay.
recommend people to pick up. And also, the humble choice for this month was good that I resubscribed for 1 month just to pick it up. It was Death Stranding Director's Cut, Roller Dome, Aliens Fireteam Elite, and then some other games. But I just got it basically because I've had Roller Dome on my wish list since it was announced. Have you guys checked out Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun? Did you say? But we've already talked about Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, Martin. It's on my wish list for a long time. I believe it
Yeah.
comes out next month. Um, did you say Boom Bear? No, I did not say Boom Bear. I said Boom Shooters, maybe. Um, but the humble choice for this month is actually really good. So if you're interested in stuff like Death Stranding, Director's Cut, Rollerdrome, or Aliens Fireteam Elite, it's cheaper to buy the bundle than it was to get one of the games on sale. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is a no-brainer for me, personally. So I picked up that bundle. I think this Humble Monthly, and the way it works is you subscribe, and at any point you can just cancel. So you don't have to, you're not locked in. You can essentially just buy it like a bundle.
It's crazy that it's that cheap and you're not even locked in.
Mm.
That just seems insane to me.
Yeah, it's a good deal, Humble.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, most. I was,
Yeah.
I was subscribed for an entire year to Humble Bundle, and my biggest takeaway was most of the months I would have skipped. Um,
Right.
but I'm in the position now where I'm just from the outside. I look it's the first Tuesday of every month. There's a new Humble Choice Bundle. If you go into Humble, I think it's around 6 or 7 o'clock UK time. Go onto the Humble website on the first Tuesday of every month. Check the new bundle. If it's got some games that you would have got on sale anyway, and it's cheaper to buy the bundle, subscribe for 1 month and then just cancel. And you know, there's no downside to doing it that way.
Okay.
Next up, we have Half-Life 2 Episode 2 VR mod came out on the 6th of April. I have not played any of the Half-Life 2 VR mods, but it is so awesome to see how quickly they're pumping them out. I guess once they did one, it was pretty easy to get the others out.
Yeah, I would assume so, yeah.
Because when in the VR section, we'll talk about another mod that came out recently, which I just didn't think was possible, but apparently it is possible. Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin has got its Steam release. I believe it was Epic exclusive. Final Fantasy 15. No, Final Fantasy 7 Part 1 is on Steam now as well. But we have still yet to get the Kingdom Hearts, the new Kingdom Hearts game or the Kingdom Hearts remasters on Steam. So we'll have to wait to see when Squeenix wants to play their hand on those. But I've never played a Final Fantasy game really, and I think that'd be so funny if my first one was I'm here to fight chaos. I kind of like the idea of playing this game. I just thought it'd be really funny to play, so maybe I'll pick it up at some point.
I've never actually looked into like the gameplay of this game. I just know the memey nature of the concept of the story. The very 3D Sonic sort of story where they're just there to fight chaos and get.
I'm here to fight chaos. Are you chaos? I'm gonna fight you.
Every 3D Sonic game, like you have to like fight some sort of like chaos entity at the end, like become like Super Sonic. I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, what is a Sonic?
What the fuck? Well, we're talking about it later for April Fools. He might be dead. That's all I'm gonna say. Next up, we have Lone Fungus, Big Chungus. Came out on April 7th, and it is a brand new Metroidvania game. It is a handcrafted open world platform set in a world built by mushrooms. It's always cool to see a new Metroidvania game coming out, and this one looks pretty cool. So excited to see more from this one. And it seems like it's been very positively reviewed. And apparently, it's also running on Steam Deck, which is awesome to see.
Running on deck.
It's running on your dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the end of releases because it's been like 3 weeks since we've been able to do a podcast. So we'll go quickly on to quick news. Last Year has returned on Steam as a free-to-play game. Apparently, so I don't know I remember this game because it was coming out as a Discord store exclusive, and I remember specifically saying at the time, if you release a game on the Discord store, dear God, you're not going to have a game soon. Like, who the fuck is buying a game that's exclusive to the Discord store? That thing is going to die soon. Which it did. Apparently a new company bought the IP, and their objective is to bring the game back to life by releasing it as a free-to-play again.
Okay.
I think right now or before, I don't know yet if the servers are up, but you had to essentially. They've been working on bringing it back to life for like a year, but for now you need to download a community-made mod to play the game, and they're waiting for the relaunch for full info.
Okay.
Honestly don't know how the fucking it's pretty complicated at this point, to be honest with you, that I don't even know if this game's in a playable state right now. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dead by Daylight, and I think the genre of that game is really cool. Like the isometric horror game is like a pretty cool idea, but it's just like every game that's come after it has just not been that great. It's unintentionally shot itself in the foot
Yeah.
sometimes, or I
Wait.
mean, Friday
Isometric or asymmetric?
asymmetric. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Last year, it shot itself in the foot. Released as a Discord exclusive. Friday the 13th got shot in the foot when they lost the rights to the Friday the 13th stuff. Prop
All I'm gonna
Hunt
say is
wasn't
try
able
and get
to.
perpetual
Is
licenses
it
for
Prop
these
Night?
things.
I think it's called. There's another one. Wasn't able to keep a player base massively. I think people still play it, but I'd be interested in trying. I tried last year on a free to play weekend, and there was just no one playing it on a free to play weekend, and I was like, "There's no one playing it now. I don't think I'm going to be able to find a game if I was to purchase the game." So I didn't end up getting
But
it.
I look at because I look at like I don't play Dead by Daylight or any like these multiplayer asymmetrical multiplayer games. I really like the concept of asymmetrical games in general. But I look at something like Dead by Daylight and go, oh, this is really cool. But I look
Another
at
one
something like
was
last year.
Predator was another one.
Oh yeah. But yeah, okay. Dead by Daylight and Predator, I look and go, oh, those look kind of cool. This doesn't do anything for me. I'm just looking to go, what's the actual appeal here? Like, what's the hook?
Yeah,
Like, Predator's kind of cool. Like, I don't think it's executed very well whatsoever.
I think the idea of last year was that the kids could fight back. They had some like weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where in DVD,
Yeah.
it's very much about just rushing around, fiction generators, and trying to escape.
Okay, but what's cool about the monster?
I don't know, to be honest. There was just a
Because
very
like you need, like, you
wacky
can't just choose
selection.
one side of your asymmetrical.
There
Like,
was the thing
game.
with Prop Night was that it was essentially a mixture of Prop Hunt and Dead by Daylight.
That's yeah. I mean that's the hook. I think that's a perfectly good hook. I just don't see anything with last year that's like that.
Honestly, this coming back, I just don't see it doing well. But I'm ready to be proved wrong. Ubisoft is pulling out of E3 and hosting its own event like everybody else. I can't wait for not E3 2024 and its associated website you use every year, so I can actually keep track of where all of these conferences are going to be and what time they're going to be on, so I can actually watch some of these. I mean, Ubisoft's one I might not even bother fucking watching, because who the hell plays Ubisoft games anymore? I mean, nobody's developing there. They've got AI to write the script because they've abused all of their employees. So,
if you currently work at Ubisoft, please make your own company and make your own games, please.
I mean, it's not as easy as saying that, but
no,
the sentiment.
But please look into it.
But it's so how every single company's pulled out of E3. E3 has been cancelled. They've said, okay, nobody wants to go to E3. Fuck it, we're going to cancel it. We know that
really bad, like they're really bad to like small developers, really bad to like smaller press. And like unless you were really big, you basically had like only then would you have an okay experience at E3. It's just like they didn't seem to handle it correctly for like anyone.
The PC gaming show will be back. We know this. It'll be back on June 11th. My question is, will Mika Burton from Star Trek Picard Season 3 be back on the show? We'll have to wait and see. We know Day 9 will be back to host it. Yeah. I don't know if people like Frankie and Misha will be back to co-host the show at all.
I'm going to assume they will be back, but my question is if they are back, or if the Burton's daughter comes back, will they talk about Star Trek?
I hope. You remember one year where they pretended they were on like a fucking Star Trek ship?
Exactly.
Space, and I was like, what the fuck? This is so crazy.
Day 9 can't help himself.
I don't know if Day 9's in charge of making the show. I know he's
no, but I think
he's
he
a
has
host.
some sort of say. Yeah,
He says
but I think
Day 9 will return as host and ringleader of this showcase, so he
right.
might have some production control. I'll tell you what Day 9 does have control over. Apparently, Day 9 StarCraft Legend is saying that he's started a new game studio to develop a multiplayer PC strategy game.
Ooh.
So I assume we're going to get a new RTS, maybe? I'm not sure. It just says strategy game, so
Yeah,
we don't
I would
know the
like
exact
again. I would
genre.
like to know the hook. I would like to know like the thing it does.
But we're seeing a lot more influencer-based
Yeah.
stuff. We talked about previously Sacriel Shrouds shooter game they're making with the Brink creators. What's their name? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Does this kind of speak about how much money the influencers are making that they can do this, or I mean, I'm not saying there's no
Splash
passion behind it.
damage,
I'm not saying there's no
and
passion behind it either, but
then we had those MMO ex WoW guys working with OTK as well.
yeah.
So we haven't really seen a finished game from an influencer-backed game,
No,
really. I mean,
the games are hard though and take a while to make.
I'm trying to think, is there any game you can think of that was really backed and helped developed by an influencer? Like,
That was good.
I mean, I'm still waiting for Yog Adventures, really.
No, that's dead.
That's 100% dead.
That's officially dead.
Uh,
Someone stole money.
I mean,
No one knows who.
wait! Didn't PewDiePie make a bunch of games?
Oh
PewDiePie
yeah,
made some
yeah,
games, though.
yeah. You know what? And some of those games look pretty decent, so I will accept
I
that.
completely forgot about PewDiePie's games. He did actually make some kind of okay looking games.
Broforce? No, Broforce. What did he call his?
There was PewDiePie Tuber Simulator, PewDiePie Pixlings. I think he had something to do with Just Die Already.
Yeah, I think so.
There was another one that I can't remember.
I will say, I don't know how maybe this is a good thing actually, but I have a funny feeling like PewDiePie had some ideas that he like told like had for the developers like, but mainly was just there to give money to help them go with it and just like let them do their own thing. So I guess that's kind of a winning formula. I guess he also like had an idea of like what games he liked are and then invested into those. So I don't actually know like the full story of like how he funded or how he got into like help develop or help fund these games, whatever the situation was.
I was just trying to look up if there was a definitive list, but it's quite hard to see.
Right.
And so he received PewDiePie Legend of the Brofist in 2015.
Bro, that's it.
PewDiePie Tuber Simulator. Animal Super Squad. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that was a big one that he was pushing for a while. Like he even advertised that. I mean, he advertised all of them, I think, on his channel, but like he pushed that for longer.
That
On
was
his
the one
channel.
where I was like, this looks like a game where if you didn't know PewDiePie had anything to do with it, you would look at it and go, oh, this could be a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool to see. But that's the only, off the top of my head, that's the only like kind of successful influencer-based game. So we'll have to wait and see how this sort of stuff turns out. Next up, we have the roadmap for Power Wash Simulator. They have announced basically more free content is coming, and there will be essentially paid DLC as well on top of the free content. So going forward, there'll be free update, paid DLC,
So, like,
free update, paid DLC.
Yeah, the flip flopping between the two.
Because at the moment they've only been doing free updates. They haven't done
What's
any paid DLC
exciting
now.
news?
I guess that's the excitement about the news. You don't know yet.
Okay.
But we will be getting a physical version in Q2, exciting news in Q3, and seasonal content in Q4, as well as the paid DLC and content updates. We'll see. Dark and Darker devs. Okay, so Dark and Darker just gets more and more interesting as time goes on. Dark and Darker devs starts and then pauses a GoFundMe for Nexon legal battle. They said the reality of the situation is their end goal is to bleed us dry in court fees. So it seems like Nexon started a GoFundMe. It seems like GoFundMe may have been closed by GoFundMe themselves after it was mass reported. I don't know what's going on
Yeah,
there.
what?
I mean,
Why are you not allowed? I don't understand why you're not allowed to GoFundMe for court fee money. Like, as long as you're being upfront about it, surely that's perfectly fine.
I don't know. But we've seen recently the Dark and Darker devs has actually asked players to, because it's been removed from Steam and they were doing an
Yeah.
upcoming playtest. What they've done is gone, oh, we'll just allow players to rent the playtest and then host it on our servers and just run the playtest anyway. Like, can you remember the last time a game dev asked someone to rent their game to play a
Yeah,
playtest? That's
it's
just
been
nuts.
it's been a while.
Now, just to put it out there for anyone who doesn't understand, there is torrenting a file. There is nothing illegal about it.
No, no, yeah, yeah.
Torrenting is
It's just process.
torrenting sometimes is used by people to illegally download movies, films,
Yeah,
and games, which is what it's most
yeah.
commonly associated with. But
You
the
can,
act of torrenting, it can be quite
if
a good thing because you get a
yeah,
thing called seeding, where
yeah,
essentially every time somebody downloads the file, they can re-upload information, and it allows
yeah.
for the file to be
Because
downloaded faster.
yeah, because if I have a demo out and I don't want to just do it with like family and friends like through email or some weird hacky thing, you can do like I will host it on my system and through a torrenting service. You can officially download it and I will get information back and actually be able to like manage it to some extent. But I will still be able to like host the file myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very useful.
Um, but yeah, it's just we haven't seen. I mean, I remember. I think Humble had a thing when for DRM free copies. Sometimes I would to rent
Yeah,
some games
it
I'd purchased through a bundle or whatever. I would to
yeah,
rent my
it'd been like
DRM
linked
free
like
version.
it'd been like a link to like the
Was a
devs.
was a good way to download them. I mean,
Yeah,
generally I just download stuff through Chrome. Because it used downloading through like Internet Explorer or like Chrome or Firefox back in the day used to be super buggy, or super slow, but it's
yeah.
actually got quite good recently from my
It
experience.
it also was like it had problem like this wasn't too this was kind of recently I suppose, but like, it used to have problems with like larger files, right? Now that
Yeah,
they eventually really fixed that and like they're a lot more consistent now.
yeah, this is really interesting to see, like, because I think the lawsuit's been served to Dark and Darker from Nexon, so we're really
Yeah.
going to see everything coming out in the legal case of this game. I will try and follow it, but I'm not that invested in the game, so I
And
don't know the specifics. And I also have no idea what happened. Like, Nexon is
we're not legal
claiming
experts or have any like
Nexon is claiming that Dark and Darker stole the idea to their game, stole developers, and essentially took the same Unreal Engine assets it was going to take and then use them to recreate the game before they could get it out, sort of thing.
yeah.
That is the current legal case. And so we have American McGee has announced he will be retiring from the video game industry after Alice Asylum, his attempt at making another American McGee Alice game was rejected by EA. So EA owns the rights to the Alice games. I don't know if you ever heard of American McGee's Alice or Alice Madness Returns, but
Yeah,
they are very
they're
they're
quite
like
well loved. These they're like
they're,
cult
they're, they're,
classics
they're
now.
like popular horror platformers featuring like
Yeah.
an alternative Alice, which are really cool games. But it seems like they are going to be stuck in the EA graveyard for probably forever. So
What if we just have
until Microsoft buys them.
yeah.
Um,
But what if we just have a different IP that's not Alice and it's instead Bob?
I mean, if you could create a spiritual successor, um, that is true. But I think pretty much he was just tired of
Yeah. Yeah.
doing anything else and just was gonna try and
EA
have like one last hurrah, maybe.
yeah, I think EA does like pull out or consume enthusiasm from a lot of developers and yeah, it sucks.
So he said, on the question of funding, they ultimately decided to pass on the project based on the internal analysis of the IP market conditions and the details of the production proposal. On the question of licensing, they replied that analysis is an important part of EA's overall game catalog, and selling or licensing it isn't something they're prepared to do right now. So they won't even
It's so important.
license or sell the IP to American
It's
McGee so he can
so
make it.
important to them.
I think it's so
Yes.
funny when EA said what do they say, single player games are not important or something while releasing.
Yeah, it was it was to that effect at the very least.
Well, some of their most successful games recently have been single player games. It's
Yeah.
why would they just not make single player games anymore?
There's only so many. There's only so much time
I
people
can
can
only
invest
think
into a
about
live
the EA
service.
graveyard for so long. Let's move on.
It's too
Uh,
sad.
Diablo 4 will apparently receive new story content every 3 months. This has been an announcement, which seems kind of crazy considering the scope of the game, that there will be new story stuff every 3 months. I guess this is going to be similar to how World of Warcraft receives a big patch every 3 months. They're sort of
Hmm.
more looking at this game going, it has a lot more MMO elements now, so we're gonna maybe treat it more like an MMO. We're gonna get that 1.1 patch, the 1.2
What?
patch sort of thing.
How are they making money from this game? Like after the actual
So that
sale of
so
the game?
the game is gonna, I think it's £60 for the base edition, and
Yeah.
then the game itself is going to have a battle pass of some sort. I assume that there's going to be a premium thing where you can get a free version, and then there'll be a premium version with additional cosmetics on it.
Right. Okay. I'm just thinking in terms of love, they're doing so stories of every 3 months. Like WoW had subscriptions from this. I'm just a bit confused.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how that goes, because that is a
Is
very
this?
um, what's the
I,
word? That's a very lofty goal to have, to
well,
release new story content every 3 months for
I'm
a game of this
wondering whether or
caliber.
not I'm wondering whether or not they had more planned for it, but then they decided to bring a lesser game out early, and then then slowly over the next year and a half, bring out the rest of it, and then they'll be done or
We'll have to
something.
wait and see. I mean,
Yeah, we'll
for the
see.
for the public, we have only played up to level 20 in the open beta sort of thing. So we
Yeah,
have no idea how expansive the story is. I mean, there are people who have played the full. I don't know if they're if they got to max level, but there was a closed beta, but I believe that was completely under NDA.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
don't know how expansive the story is, and I don't know how much of the story they got access to.
Okay.
Um,
But I guess we'll see at launch how expansive the story is, and whether how.
But if they can actually add meaningful story stuff to the game every 3 months, that would be awesome to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
And they actually did something in unBlizzard fashion and said, "Oh, you guys had a lot of criticism from the beta. Let's fix that."
What?
So they one of my biggest things was barbarians are underpowered, druids are underpowered. Their summon build fucking sucks. Um, that the corpse explosion was completely broken, in my opinion. Wizards were really strong, and basically they've gone, okay, we're buffing barbarians, we're buffing druids, specific companions. We are changing dungeons, so they are there's less backtracking, they're more optimized, they're
Oh,
a lot easier
nice,
to go through.
nice.
Um, we are nerfing corpse explosion, wizards are getting a nerf. Um, Legendaries, which I was saying to you in the previous book, I was like, legendary feels like there's no reason to take them. They're looking at
Yeah.
the legendary talents and actually trying to fix those, which is cool to see. Yeah, they've done some general quality of life stuff, which is really really cool to see. So hopefully, I had a good experience with the Diablo 4 beta from what I played, and it seems like they're taking a step in the right direction by genuinely listening to feedback from the beta. So hopefully, we can get some good stuff out of the Diablo 4 game when it launches. And soon, right? It's June, I think, is the release date for
Wait,
Diablo 4.
was it start of June or end of June?
Start 6th of June.
6th of June. Okay. Yes. Well, 6 weeks away.
Yeah, so we've got
If that.
a month and a half.
Yeah.
Such kind of nuts. Next up we have Steam Emulation Retro news. Dolphin Emulator is coming to Steam. I always find it really funny when they post the emulator store page, but they're not allowed to use any images of the games you would be emulating on it. Because they don't own the IP rights to those, so they post these images of like these homebrew games that they've made to test out features or to mess
Right.
around with it. Because you can go to like RetroArch, like you go to RetroArch PSP page, and it's like, who the fuck would ever be playing these games? You're not going to be playing solitaire
Oh,
on it,
Rubik's
right?
Cube Simulator.
You're going to be like emulating games. Obviously, they can't show that because they don't own the rights to that. But there's nothing illegal about emulating your own games.
Nope. Well, Java is an emulation. Like it's just a virtual machine. Like there's nothing
But
weird
I've
about
been
it.
using Dolphin Emulator a lot on Steam, specifically on the Steam Deck. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a great use case for it. We've had cloud saves have been confirmed to come to the Steam version, which would be a really cool feature to have to be able to um, have the save sync between your PC and your Steam Deck. If they could get that working, it would be really cool. I do know that RetroArch and its cores are available on Steam, and Emodec uses the Discover Store versions of those instead of the Steam Store versions, probably because it's a lot easier to keep them updated or compatibility or something like that. Um, but I'm wondering if Emudec would change their approach to Dolphin based on this news and the cloud save. I mean, Emudec is working on its own cloud save feature, but it's in like a really early access, and it would essentially be like using like Google Drive or Dropbox to essentially upload your saves on there and then downloading them onto your other PC sort of thing. It's not like a it's not like a perfect solution where Steam Cloud Save is a lot easier and better to use. Have to wait and see. Um, Oh, and another news, EmuDeck is getting a Windows release. So if you've ever been like, man, I want to play a bunch of emulators, but there's not like an easy package to use, I would highly recommend using EmuDeck for the Steam Deck. But if the Windows version is anything like the Steam Deck experience, it is so freaking easy to use that I feel fundamentally anyone can set up emulators, especially
Yeah.
with a package like EmuDeck. So seeing a Windows version of that would be really cool. They have said their primary focus is the Steam Deck version,
Right.
but they will make a Windows version available as well to help people set up emulators.
I guess I guess it's just a lot easier to do certain things, like emulating certain things in Linux than it is getting around some of the
Well,
limitations
the
with
thing with the
microcontrollers.
Steam Deck platform is you can basically set up all of the options for a fixed platform. It's the
Yeah.
console mindset where it's like if everybody's using the exact same system, we can just set these exact same settings on the emulator, and we know it
Mhm.
will work for people. Um,
But I know there's like similar there's old emulating older software sort of thing like tends to be done on Linux then like it's like harder to do in Microsoft or in Windows as well. So it's like I'm wondering if like that also has some sort of ease of use play with it as well. But
uh,
yeah, I can understand like if you because you can do both. Like why would you choose one over the other? But yeah, that
Xbox
makes sense.
has blocked access to emulators on Series X and S consoles in retail mode. For the longest time, you were able to just run Xbox emulators through Xbox Series X and S in its normal retail mode, where you could still play games and do updates and be connected to the internet, stuff like that. I know very popular games. I think Duck Station was working on there. Dolphin literally made, and I think it was Dolphin made specifically an Xbox Series X update version um, uh, for its GameCube Wii emulation, which is really cool to see. I know like a lot of people were just basically using the Xbox Series S specifically as like a emulation box that was really cool. Um, but they've changed it now, so they basically the only way to still access it is through dev mode. and basically I think you have to pay for dev mode, and then it's a mode you have to go into, which basically
You
massively restricts what you can do on the Xbox until you switch
you,
out of it.
you also have to be verified by Microsoft. You have to actually
Yeah,
request it.
but basically they've said, I assume someone like Nintendo was putting pressure on them, basically saying
Yeah.
people are using this to illegally play our games or something
Well,
like that.
they're also emulating older Xbox games and stuff as well, right? So
Yeah. But they said in a release, that said, we are still exploring ways to allow safe and legal emulation on Xbox. We are in talks with legitimate emulator developers to bring their software onto our platform while ensuring that all copyright laws and security protocols are followed. So, it's kind of shit news, but it seems like they are trying. It might, if we had like an official Windows Store release of Dolphin or DuckStation or whatever, that would be good overall. But it's a shame we couldn't have this in place still while that was coming around. For
yeah.
people to be able to still experience it before it dropped, sort of thing. So on to Steam news. Tony, what version of Windows are you on?
Uh, the right one?
Which is the right one?
I'm on Windows 10. Don't worry.
Did you actually? You've upgraded to Windows 10 now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, for
It's
longest
since
time
October.
you're on Windows 7 and you
Yeah,
were like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna upgrade. But
No, but
um,
I upgrade my stance wasn't so I'm not gonna upgrade that computer. It's like I'm gonna when I get a new computer install like a fresh install,
okay.
which is what I did with this computer. I'm on
So
a new computer as of
Steam is
October.
actually dropping support for Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 on January 1st, 2024. So at the start of next year, they will no
So
longer support those systems. And it's
my
basically to do with the fact that the change is required as a core feature because Steam relies on an embedded version of Google Chrome, which will no
yeah.
longer function on older versions of Windows.
Yeah, I believe this is a security issue where
Yeah.
because there's a rolling security thing and it's like there's features that just Windows 7 and 8 8.1 just never had, but Windows 10 did or does. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I do. I mean, I guess you'd always, yeah, yeah. It kind of sucks because I feel like it'd be nice that even it should at least launch. But yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And also,
7 is a very old operating
Steam is
system.
announcing they will be dropping support for macOS 10.11 and 10.12 on
I have
September 1st,
I have
2023.
no. Isn't that really old?
So this is also a change based on the embedded version of Google Chrome. Um, but this is kind of interesting news because 10.13 and 10.14 are the only versions of macOS that still support 32-bit games.
Okay.
10.15 Catalina, which is the update that killed off 32 app support, is I think it's the most recent one. Could be wrong. For Mac OS, we might be on 10.16. I know there's an iPhone on
It's
iOS
not
16.
that according to this, that's not that old. That OS was launched in 2015, so that's not okay.
So Catalina came out on 2019, and then we've had Big Sur, Monterey, and Ventura is the latest one at the moment.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah,
But
I have no context with like current. Like
I
I
don't.
used to remember
I've
Snow
never.
Leopard.
I've never used a Mac, so I don't know the
Okay.
current version of macOS. But I thought it was interesting because we're getting closer and closer to the only version of macOS that actually supports 32-bit games, and this is going to be pretty interesting because, um, as niche as Mac gaming is, it's still bigger than Linux right now, I believe, um,
It
comparatively.
was
So
always yeah. You always had to hack your way into doing gaming on Mac though. It was never a great experience.
yeah, but I think
It
it
did
should it
exist.
should still be valid for those people who have those systems and they want to
Hmm.
do that sort of
I mean,
things.
there's still games like the Sims, for example, has a Mac mode. StarCraft has a Mac version. Like, there are games that have like dedicated Apple versions, so just not very many of them.
Next up, we have Microsoft is experimenting with a Windows gaming handheld mode for Steam Deck. The prototype includes UI improvements to the Xbox app, a game launcher, and more. So it seems like they're trying to make Windows on deck like a big playable experience.
It's
Uh,
very interesting. I just like,
but
oh
pretty
no,
cool to see.
Windows is still good for gaming. Don't forget about Windows, mobile Windows. I guess this is
It
a big
seems
push. They don't
like
want to be obsolete.
that they've realized there is this big push to Linux now that the Steam Deck has
Hmm.
become so popular. I mean, there is another million Linux users out in the wild
Yep,
because of the Steam
yep.
Deck.
Which is big competition.
But I think the idea is, if they get this mode up and running, it would be applicable to other handhelds that are
Oh
already
yeah,
running Windows on the OS, stuff like the
yeah,
GPT Win, the Io Neo, um, that new Asus thing that just came out.
yeah,
Have we
yeah.
talked about that Asus thing? Did we talk about it last week? I don't remember.
I mean, we
Uh,
mentioned it, right? And we said it was more. Yeah, I think it was last time. I think.
I don't remember. They released that new Asus handheld thing, and it's like
It was
saying
still
it's like double the performance of the
yeah,
Steam
it
Deck, and
was
I'm
the new
like,
Ryzen mobile chips.
yeah, but it's gonna be double the wattage and half the battery life probably.
I think it
Wasn't
was
it? Wasn't it like a 120 hertz screen as well?
yeah. I think the biggest problem was just the price. Like with all these other like competitors, it's just like they're very expensive. Like even if like y if you're in the high end market for handheld, sure, but like I can't bring myself to like spending like anywhere close to like £1,000 on a handheld
Um,
device. That's insane to me.
oh, Halo, the Master Chief Collection, has been updated um, to now support multiplayer matchmaking and custom games browser on the Steam Deck,
Oh, thank God.
which is
Wait,
really
do
cool
people
to
play
see.
this on the Steam Deck?
Well, I think they've been unable to because of the easy anti-cheat solution that they were
Oh,
using.
so this is a solution to that,
So
right?
this has updated it from unsupported to playable on the Steam Deck,
Oh.
and
So is this the start of anti-cheats being properly working on Linux then?
I think it's more like a Halo Steam Deck exclusive thing, but we'll have to
Yeah,
wait and
yeah, but
see.
it's being thought about. I guess I'm saying at the very start, I should say.
I don't know if you have. One of the funny thing is there's some known issues still though, like when launching Halo the Master Chief Collection on Steam Deck, selecting one of the available anti-cheat launch options will result in the game launching with the opposite launch option instead. Which I was like, that's a fucking hilarious issue to have. Yeah, we kind of fucked up. It releases it like clicks on the opposite one that you want to click on.
That sounds like a really easy bug to fix. I don't know how that slipped through the
Um,
cracks.
and Valve is working on a update to reduce Steam Deck shader cache sizes, leaving more room for games. So some
Interesting.
games on Steam Deck have huge shader caches, like multiple gigabytes worth of
Yeah,
shader cache files, and
yeah.
those files like permanently stay on your Steam Deck when you download those games. In order for you to not get shader compilation issues. Um, but according to PC Gamer, which stated this update, the files should shrink by approximately 60%, which is
Interesting.
awesome to see.
But you still wouldn't have to re-download them. It's just storing it in a different way.
The way it works is um, there's a SteamOS update coming that includes a new iteration of the Mesa graphics driver, which is
Okay.
like the Linux
Yeah.
AMD like graphics driver. This driver re-implements the RADV
Generic.
pipeline cache based on the common VK pipeline cache, a change that should reduce the file size of the game shader caches maintained by SteamOS.
Interesting. That's very cool though. Okay.
So essentially, I would expect to see this in the next couple of months because it's going to have to go into the beta build of the Steam Deck to make sure it's working properly, and then we'll see like a stable release after that. like after like a month of testing or whatever, right? So it'll be interesting to see when that eventually comes out. Blunders. Oh yes, I haven't talked about this yet. Multiverse's open beta update. So I don't know if you know this. So the whole time Multiverse has been out at the moment, it's been under the guise of it was in an open beta. Like they hadn't technically fully released it.
Yeah.
Lots of people have been playing this game and they've bought a bunch of stuff for the game, right? They bought like the battle pass, the skins, the characters they've been wanting to play as. Multiverses or Warner Brothers has now gone, look, the game is in open beta. We are going to release it in 2024. So what we're going to do now is we're ending the open beta, and you won't be able to play the game again until it releases next year. What's happened though is people have said, "But I've bought a bunch of stuff for the game." Essentially, they bought a part of the game already, right? They've bought all these characters that they've invested in this game, right? And then Warner Brothers and Molyduex are pulling the plug and going, no, you can't have access to content you paid for until next year when the game fully releases. Which is like kind of a shady thing to do.
What I don't understand is why don't you just do what they've always done and just fine launch it in when you want to launch it, but just have the beta run into it launches. Like, oh, today's the final day of the beta, then tomorrow will be the release.
Like an Overwatch 2 launch, you just leave Overwatch 1 up, and then release Overwatch 2.
What a weird way to do that for. What the hell?
I guess the idea is they want people to they want people to stop playing. They want people to really miss playing the game, so when they relaunch it, they're like, oh, I've been waiting so long to play this game, let's blow up on Twitch again for like a couple of months.
That's so dumb.
But so what happened was players asked for refunds because they were like, well, I paid for content for less than a year. I was able to access it. Now I'm going to be without access for it for potentially up to a year, potentially like more than a year if it gets delayed or whatever. And they were like, I should be able to get a refund on this. And the Molyduex just like, no refunds.
Well,
they've just flat been like, no refunds.
Isn't that like there's some anti-consumer laws that I think people protected in a lot of countries there, so I think there might be a little bit screwed.
So the servers are going down. It's still up now, but servers are going down on June 25th, and they will not be up until their target of early 2024. So
again, guys, just leave it up. Leave your.
So this is going from my best multiplayer game of 2022 to an absolute blunderfest of a shit show right now. Really ashamed to see.
But I get it costs money to run the servers that these are hosted on. But you've made money. Like, normally betas do not have a cash store. Like, you've made money.
They do these days.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's no excuse then, is there? If they have cash stores, that you've made money, you can keep the servers up. It's just insane to me.
It always seems scummy when you take away access to something someone paid for. I mean, plenty of games have been called up. Like, one off the top of my head, I remember Destiny had an expansion that people paid for, and they were like, there's too much content in the size.
Yeah,
it's getting too big. We're removing it now. We're vaulting
the content.
Which I think is dumb, but you know.
Or I guess technically, you could argue season 1 of Guild Wars 2, which they finally re-added in totality now.
It always sucks when they take content away from the game that isn't just, very quick seasonal content. Like, I understand you don't want the Halloween mode running all year round, but
but it still comes back.
Yeah, it just comes back every year, like multiverses.
Yeah.
Next year they'll release multiverses again. People will buy some characters, some skins.
Oh.
Then they'll go, guys, that was the open
Joe.
That was the open early access. We're going to take it back.
We've got a new model
release.
We have games as services that only come out for a month, and it's not there for the whole year. So you get excited for next year.
Timed played window for
my god,
access games. Yeah.
Guys, I need to call Ubisoft in the air right now.
Redfall has been announced to be releasing with de novo anti-tamper, which is super
Oh
confusing because
God.
I believe they literally just said recently we want the game to. Initially they were like it's going to release with DRM, you won't be able to play offline. Then people were like, we want to be playing offline, please add this, and they're like, okay, we're going to make it so you guys can still play on offline. And then they're releasing with de novo, so I don't.
Which means you can't play offline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of shit news. Also, really fucking random. De novo has been added to Ghostwire Tokyo after the most recent update. The game's been
Oh,
out for
fuck
such a
off.
long time that
Absolutely fuck off.
there exists a de novo-less build of your game that is already out there for pirates to use. What is the fucking point of making the game worse for people who've already purchased and legally own your game? It makes absolutely no sense.
And make it better for pirated versions. Good job.
No, absolutely. Resident Evil 4 has added its mercenary updates, but with this mercenary updates has added microtransactions to upgrade your weapons quicker for some reason.
I thought the actual content was decent, but I didn't realize it had.
Well, they added the DLC, the Mercenaries DLC to the game. It's been accompanied by 11 new pieces of paid DLC called Exclusive Upgrade Tickets, which each lets players speed up the upgrade process of upgrading your weapon. So it's a single-player game where you can pay to upgrade your weapons faster, and at that point I would be asking why you're paying for this. Why don't you just play the game? It's a single-player game. Honestly, I don't understand these people, but I know they exist. This is a blunder for this even existing in the first place, but Take-Two has dismissed its lawsuit against the GTA modders who were reverse engineered the GTA 3 and Vice City. Reverse engineered GTA 3 and reverse engineered Vice City were essentially pre-definitive edition updates aimed at getting the older GTA games running properly on modern hardware, and they were slapped with a wrongful DMCA and lawsuit from Take-Two. Take-Two then realized they had no fucking ground to stand on legally and have now dismissed the lawsuit.
Did this ever make it to? Obviously, it's got filed with some sort of court. Did the court dismiss it and then they had to then remove it, or did they decide to do it because they realized they didn't have any ground to actually file the DMCA on?
So in 2022, both parties requested that materials in the discovery portion of the lawsuit be exempted from public disclosure because they had proprietary information in them, such as source code. Word of potential settlement followed shortly therefore after, and then on April 3rd, after multiple delays, the request to dismiss the lawsuit was filed. The suit was dismissed with prejudice, which means it cannot be refiled, but it was only dismissed against the 4 named defendants. The lawsuit also named 10 John Does as defendants, and the filing noted specifically that the remaining defendants are not dismissed by this stipulation.
That sounds like the court dismissed it.
In an update filed the next day, however, Take-Two also dismissed the case against those defendants, but without prejudice, meaning it can refile the action against them. One of the John Doe defendants is noted as Ash R and Ash735, which presumably Ash735 on Twitter. They retweeted the settlement filing earlier this week. So it seems like some of the people who worked on it, they don't know their identities, so they can't. They were filing the DMCA case against them, but they don't know who they are, so they're leaving the case open potentially in the future, but it's been dismissed for now against the John Does. The 4 named people have had it dismissed with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled.
Yeah, and normally you don't dismiss yourself with prejudice, so I'm going to say that's like the court itself decided that.
PC Gamer reached out to Take-Two for a comment, but they would not respond. So there could have been a settlement, we don't know. There was word of a potential settlement. I don't know if they actually had to pay for this shitty-ass lawsuit to go away, but it was dismissed. and they cannot refile it against the 4 named people. Which is... just think it's so shit that this exists in the first place. When
Yeah. It's
modest...
kind of a win, but it shouldn't have happened to begin with.
Bandcamp staff has accused the CEO and Epic Games of union busting. So we talked about this in a previous podcast not that long ago. Epic Games bought Bandcamp, and it seems like the Bandcamp employees have accused the CEO of Bandcamp and Epic Games themselves from trying to bust up any unions being created inside the studio, which is always not a good thing to see.
Yep, very shit. I don't know why people are anti-union.
Next up we have... I don't know if you've seen the Ark Survival debacle.
Nope.
So, Ark has announced they're releasing an Ark 2, right? I don't know if you remember, like...
Vin Diesel on a dinosaur.
Vin Diesel on a dinosaur, yeah. But they were like, we're going to take the original Ark and we're going to remaster it. And most people were like, oh, they're going to do a free update to remaster the official Ark.
That would make sense.
So, they announced that it was going to be a remaster in Unreal Engine 5. Ark 2 is delayed. So, what they said were they were turning off Survival Evolved's official servers and then charging $50 for a remaster.
What?
But in order to buy the remaster, you had to buy it in a $90 release that includes both Ark Survival Evolved Remaster, Ark Survival Evolved, and includes the basically a pre-order for Ark 2, their upcoming sequel to Ark. It was fixed in a bundle that you had to buy. So they were essentially being like, cutting the support for the normal version of Ark, so everyone would have to buy Ark remastered and then put it in a bundle so everyone would have to pre-order the next game. I'm just like, this is like mind-blowing levels of like scumbaggery. It is
double
insane.
stupidity and duplicity.
It seems like due to backlash, Ark Survival Ascended, or Ark Survival Evolved was the original. Ark Survival Ascended was the name of the remaster. It's got such fucking stupid names I can't remember. Will be now sold without Ark 2 because of the backlash, but will still cost $60.
So they're still showing down the original servers. You still have to upgrade for $60.
So rather than costing the previous $50, you can now have the privilege of buying it on its own for $60. So they've increased the price by $10, but you don't have to buy it with a pre-order of Ark 2 now. Initially, I was debating about talking about this because I was like, I just don't care about Ark, but this is just so fucking dumb. Like, I had to talk about just how scummy this is, what Ark is doing. Just fucking insane. Let's move on to tech news. There's a rumor right now that PlayStation is working on a handheld, but it's going to be a handheld which is essentially a streaming-only device which basically remote plays from your PS5 to the handheld. So it would be like a Wii U pad, essentially.
Yeah.
You can only stream from the console to a small little handheld device. Which I'm just like, who is this for? When stuff like the Steam Deck and the cloud, Xbox cloud gaming devices existing.
But what if you're in bed, you own a PS5 and it's in the living room and you just want to play a little bit of Spider-Man while you're in bed?
You could play Spider-Man on your Steam Deck or stream it from your gaming PC.
No, you haven't got a Steam Deck.
Why?
You've invested into the PS5.
Oh, okay. Do you want to play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart in bed? Okay, I guess.
I'm gonna say this is a product that makes no sense and is like only works to some. I'm not even saying it works, but like it only somewhat works because of like it's being advertised to console exclusive owners.
The best streaming service right now is GeForce Now, Nvidia's GeForce Now.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the 4080 tier, you can get like next gen gaming experience with like almost zero input latency through their service. Is very good. Yeah. PlayStation Now, from what I've played PlayStation Now on my PC. I played it back in the day. It was fucking awful. There was not great input latency at all. Like playing like a slow paced older game was fine, but playing like any game that was an action game was pretty much impossible. There was so much input delay, and it had like 720p, like um, massive input delay latency. Um, I've heard it's got better over time, but it's still not great. I'm really
Mhm.
wondering how good PlayStation Remote Play will be for a local device. People
I
talk
don't
about
know.
people talk about
But if
how
this
good.
requires your own PS5 to have this run locally, it
Yeah.
still seems like a dumb. I don't know. This still, this just seems dumb all around
Having
for
to
me.
own a
Like,
PS5 is still a bigger investment than buying a Steam Deck, though.
yeah,
Somebody
but
who
most
doesn't
people,
already
yeah,
own a PS5.
that's fine. But that's you. A lot of people already own a PS5. Again, this is a device for PlayStation 5 owners.
But
It still doesn't make any sense.
that's the problem I have with the device is it's so one track minded that
Yep.
it's such a niche market that who the
Yep.
hell. I mean, the beauty of the Steam Deck is it is a streaming device. It is a standalone device. It is a PC basically. I mean, there's just so
hmm
much value proposition in that compared to this, where it's just like feels like a to me personally, in my opinion, it feels like a waste of time. But I understand this
I
is a product for some people.
I'm gonna say this doesn't make any sense, and I feel like this is abusing the position a lot of people who only own a PS5 have, and I think there's a better solution for this, and it should
So
be
apparently, this is all rumor
cheaper.
speculation, but apparently, it's in its development. It's in its QA phase. It's called the QLite, and it's essentially a PS5 controller with a massive 8-inch LCD touchscreen in the center. Is
Yeah, my
essentially how it's
question
going to
is,
work.
okay, question: why can you?
Which
I know this is a bit okay. This might not, but why not just attach like a screen that could stream from your PS5 in your house to the screen, then just use your existing controller? Like, would that not just be? Why not? Is there not? There's streaming sticks, right? Like you can like an HDMI streaming stick from like one device to another like
oh,
console,
like
to
not
another TV. So just have like if you have a TV in your bedroom,
I have a
I
I
don't
have a
know.
Google Chromecast here right now in my hands, which I
Yeah,
I'll
just
restart. You can't
enable
see it
that
probably.
on the PS5. Then you can do it on your phone.
I think
That's my okay.
617
You
was
know
eating it.
what? You know what? That's my biggest problem with this. Why can't you just use your phone as a screen and hook your controller up to the phone? Like
I
enable
mean,
that through firmware.
Steam Link is available on iOS and Android, so you can
Yep.
hook. Most TVs have access to an Android store, so you can, or the Apple, what's it called? Apple TV has access to iOS apps, so you could
Yeah.
use that to stream games from Steam. I mean, doing
You
it
can
from
get.
Steam is very easy. Um,
Yep. Or
but
you get a
spec-
stick if a TV can't do it.
and then of course stuff like Xbox Game Pass exists, so it's very easy to stream games from there, like the
Yeah.
Xbox
I will
Cloud.
say well, my stance is that this only makes sense from Sony's point of view because of the market they share they have. I don't think this actually makes sense for anyone to get. There are definitely people who buy
Yeah.
it, but I don't think this is going to be popular.
Next up we have the 4070 launched, and it's a very boring GPU. Uh, it's essentially the 4070 is 500 and let me. It is £589, which is
Oh man,
you
it's
get
so
ten
expensive.
you get £10 better than just releasing it at the same price as the dollars, which is £600 MSRP.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but basically, they've said on launch it will be a 4070. Will launch at around 3080 performance, and from what we've seen, yeah, it's pretty close. Like it's essentially
If
around a 3080 tier of performance.
if this was £500, it would have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I
It would
agree.
even if it's 520,
The third
five
the
thirty.
the 3070 released at £500 during COVID, and it was such a fucking steal at MSRP. It was a great upgrade and product to buy for lots of people. It was their best selling card by far.
Yeah.
So you get 12 gigabytes of DDR6X RAM,
Great. Fantastic.
which is awesome to see because
Previous
people
problem we talked about earlier.
3070 released with 8 GB, which we're already seeing VRAM issues with certain games. I think it has around the same VRAM as the 38. I think the 3080 launched with 10 GB, but then
There's
they
an
released
upgraded version.
they released an updated version with 12 GB, and then they also released the 3080 Ti, which has 12 GB. So there's 3 SKUs of the 3080.
Yeah. Not confusing at all.
So I mean, the 4070 is bound to be one of the 3080s, I guess. In game, it matches the performance of one of the 3080s.
I was before AI stuff. I was seeing like sometimes in some people's testing 3080 sometimes beating the 4070, but it was like, but overall it still beat the 3080.
But the thing is with the 3080 is 3080 launched for MSRP of £650, so this is cheaper than MSRP of that. I'm not 100% sure of where it's sitting now because it's hard to track. It's hard to track when you can't see the Founder Edition cards in the store. And you have to look at third-party cards. But I know for a fact 3080 cards are still holding their value secondhand. And given the fact that the 4070 is giving you around 3080 performance, but with the added feature of frame generation, I actually think it makes a lot of sense to buy a 4070 over like a 3080.
Oh yeah, I completely agree, but I still think this is too expensive. I still think this is it's one of those things where it's like it's technically better, but it still feels like you're being slapped in the face by Nvidia. It just feels wrong.
I saw some people comparing this to the Radeon 7900 XTX, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just in a completely different price tier.
So XTX is compared to the 4080, not
the XT. Sorry, I mean the XT is still like what, $900.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely awful.
How much? Let's see if I can find the. It's hard to find the MSRP in the
UK
for these.
I have a funny feeling they're gonna have to decrease the price of both the XT and XTX then.
Because it was £900. But they dropped the price by 100 to try and match the 4070 Ti. 4070 Ti came out of the gates, and then they did this a discount to $850 on the Radeon 7900 XT with a bundle with The Last of Us to try and match the 4070 Ti's MSRP. Like the 4070 Ti and the 4080 are the cards that are going up against like the XT and the XTX, right?
Yeah.
But this card is more like looking at the budget offerings because it is. It feels kind of awful to say, but a £600 card is the budget card right now, like the mid-range budget card, right? And right now, AMD doesn't offer anything below their high end right now.
Well, no, yeah, okay. In terms of one thing I did see in terms of people, I think this is Game Nexus I saw on their chart, someone else's as well. But the 6950 XT was like, and again, it's a car that's not in production, but like it's selling for quite cheap at the moment.
It was actually doing quite well because of driver updates.
Yes, exactly. And it actually, and oddly, only a couple of games, but it actually beat it in a couple of games. And to be clear,
right,
the Nvidia cards are better at ray tracing. They're not. The 6950 can still ray trace, but like in ray tracing, the 4070 always beats for quite a substantial amount.
I got a friend who bought an XT recently, saying the XT was £800 and the XTX was £1,000 MSRP. But I believe the XT was on a special offer recently because of the bundle. I think you got it on a sale cheaper. I think the MSRP of the XT is around £900.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I would say now on scan, the XT is still that price, if not more.
So you're comparing a sale price to a MSRP price, which is a bit disingenuous. Where comparing MSRP prices is a lot easier because it's a static price that doesn't change.
Yeah. But I think it's something that yeah, these will be fluctuating all the time, and I think AMD will have to lower the price of their cards, sorry, to match this.
Yeah.
And look at see the 60. If you really want to go Team Red, 6950 XT, see if it's on offer. See if the price makes sense compared to its performance. It might be for you. Well, I'm going to say now, both AMD and Nvidia are not
Yeah,
really for
so
the
I'm looking.
customer right
I'm
now.
looking here now. When was this article? Yeah, so it was March that it launched at a um £900 MSRP, the
Hmm.
XT, and then they dropped it by £100 with some of the newer um
Yeah.
models that were coming out because there's no founders editions for a lot
No,
of the XT and XTX models now. I think they just did like a limited run. Um,
yeah, AMD do not have their own manufacturing. They don't
So
want. They don't
that's
really want
why
to.
I was saying to you, Jesse, when the you were talking about the XT versus the XTX, I was like, initially there was £100 difference between the two cards, which is why I was saying it made no sense to buy the XT because that £100 there was a big difference in performance for that £100. Um, Whereas if you're getting that £100 off and you're getting a game bundled in, maybe it makes sense if you don't have that extra £200. I can understand people don't have that kind of money to throw around, but even then it's still we're still at a point where the Radeon cards are still too expensive at the moment compared to
Yeah,
the stuff you can get from Nvidia.
and they're
They
also
need
too expensive considered
I
compared to
need
what
I
generation
need to see
generation.
the new AMD cards
Lower
um,
end.
lower end to see if they can actually compete with
Yeah,
stuff like the 4070,
yeah.
a potential 4060, a potential
But
4050, or whatever.
I
But
would say red and green are not your friends at the moment. Like neither of them are
yeah,
particularly
both of these companies
customer
have been kind
friendly.
of scummy when it comes
Yep.
to pricing, which is a shame to
Yep.
see because people were very excited to see the new AMD cards, which have been performing better and have been performing
Yeah.
better because of
Yeah.
driver updates. Um,
And the ray tracing is definitely worse than Nvidia, but I think it's, in my opinion, good enough in a lot of cases. It depends what your
yeah.
priorities are.
Next up, we have Nvidia news. Oh, this was pretty funny to see. Nvidia made a statement saying cryptocurrencies add nothing useful to
Oh my god.
society. I don't know if you read about this.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I saw C from GameNet's rant about this. It's
I thought
like,
it was
what do
so
you
funny
mean?
when Nvidia literally made cryptocurrency specific mining cards
Yep.
and profited massively off cryptocurrency.
Yep.
And now that the cryptocurrency boom has died, they're now saying, "Oh, cryptocurrency, that's shit. We don't care about that. We're all about the gaming. We're gamers."
The other thing as well is that even if cryptocurrency that comes back, it looks like mining won't really be a thing. So
Do you
yeah,
remember when they made a bunch of money off mining and they tried to pass it off as gaming and they got like didn't they get like
yeah,
a
they got
fine?
fined for it.
They got
Yeah, they got
fined
fined
from
for it.
it by like
Their
the
investors
trade commission
sued.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, their investors sued through the trade commission.
Um, yeah. NVIDIA RTX Remix game remastering platform is now open source, so you can take this stuff like
That's good.
RTX Portal, but what NVIDIA Lightwork Studios has done, and you can apply this to your own games. I've seen screenshots of people who have already applied this to Half-Life 2, and there's some mixed responses to the initial mods that people have just made for
Is
the
it?
ray tracing.
Well, is the problem like in intensity, like how well it runs, or just like how it looks?
How it looks, I think. I
How it
think
looks. Okay.
they're
Okay.
taking the. I'll send you the video that I
Because
saw.
I would assume like it's very much up.
Is this the one?
You still have to like as a developer, you still have to fine tune this, right? Like like it's not like it does it for you, right?
I
So
think it was the Citadel that people were having issues
yeah.
with, like how fucking shiny everything was.
Hmm. Yeah. Again, I think it's not a run and done thing. Like it has to be.
Yeah,
You
no.
have to fine tune this. You have to still develop with. It's a tool. It's not. Yeah. It's like Unreal 5. It's a tool. It doesn't automatically make your game better.
Yeah.
It can. It gives more potential for it to be better, I suppose.
Oh,
But
this is a big tech Nvidia stuff I want to talk about. Cyberpunk Overdrive mode has come out now, so we can
yeah,
see
this is big.
fully like path traced ray tracing coming to Cyberpunk, which is really cool to see. Um, I know, for instance, this does not run pretty well on AMD cards from what we talked
No,
about previously, which is a shame to see.
but
Um,
that never. Unfortunately, Cyberpunk never was really great on AMD. Like it was very, like
which
was
I
it
find
funded partially by Nvidia? Was it not?
I think there's AMD backed games and there's Nvidia backed games, and this is
Yeah,
clearly an Nvidia backed game based on their implementations of stuff like
and
DLSS,
what?
frame
Yeah, what
generation,
technologies they get first?
and ray tracing and stuff like that. Um, so they're saying at the moment, overdrive mode is currently recommended on GeForce 40 series, 4070 Ti and up,
Mm-hmm.
and NVIDIA GeForce 3090s, 1080p, 30 FPS. It requires the highest performing hardware available to run it properly. Um, the Digital Foundry just put out a video today, actually, that I was watching. It was quite interesting. They were trying to test um, the overdrive mode on the lowest end GPUs, and they found that they could get a 1080p 30 FPS experience with path tracing on a 3050 running
That is
by
huge.
rendering at 1080p with DLSS, 30 FPS cap, and then somebody on the Nexus has made a mod that basically adds more options to the overdrive mode. I got Cyberpunk overdrive. Find it. Ray trace overdrive optimization. So in why have they got Gachi on it? What the hell? Okay. Um, one of the things that when Portal RTX released, one of the things you could do, you could go into a separate menu, you could adjust the amount of light bounces, you could adjust like, you know, various different options about how you wanted the path tracing to appear that would degrade the look but would increase performance and allow for a more playable experience on lower end cards. I was able to play through most of it at like 20-30 FPS on a 2080 Super. Um, Using stuff like ultra performance DLSS, turning down light bounces, and using like the recommended settings, running at 1080p instead of 1440p, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is very intensive, but they found that. So if you are planning on running this, it is possible on a high end AMD card or a low end Nvidia card, like the 30 series 3050, but you will have to do stuff like even with FSR running, you're still only going to be able to run it at like 1080p 30, and you're still might have to download a mod like this, which will reduce the amount of light bounces on the like reflection, for example. Though, if you watch the Digital Foundry video, they showed in the video like a puddle with the light bounces turned down. There wasn't the full building reflected in it because it only had one bounce instead of the additional bounce, which re-reflected back off, which I thought was pretty interesting to see. So there are differences between the modes, but
Yeah.
you're still able to get that much more enhanced path tracing look to the game rather than just
Which looks
the
fantastic.
hybrid ray tracing approach that you had initially.
Yeah. I think
This is
one thing I did see the gamers Stephen Gamers just talk about is like it is worth remembering this game was like not it has like great ray tracing in, but like it wasn't like built from the ground up with ray tracing in. So like that's like some sort like so potentially this could be even further in the future. Where, like if like the aesthetics is like designed around ray tracing because at the moment obviously a lot of baked lighting was
again, as
initially
we were
it was
talking
designed for.
about earlier with The Last of Us and stuff, like stuff having like an ultra setting to be like future
Yeah,
compatibility.
yeah,
Overdrive mode is very much a thing for future hardware,
yeah,
and it is
absolutely.
playable through stuff like reconstruction and frame generation on 40 series cards, and caveats with 30 series and AMD cards like 1080p
What
30. What are you going to say?
I was gonna say one thing I think we should mention is that both CD Projekt Red and Nvidia like was like saying like this is like very experimental mode anyway, like it's not even
Mm.
like a production thing. Also, I was thinking though, it's like in a way like there's like until you have this sort of technology like in a game, like that a lot of people can play and like run on their own hardware, like it's going to be very hard to like. Before you do that, they're not going to be able to like gain knowledge of like how to optimize for this. So I think it's very good for that,
Oh,
and the fact that it's running as well as it is.
they added DLLA and Intel Sex backwards support as well,
And okay,
for people running Intel cards. From the Digital Foundry video I watched today, they essentially said, "Do not try this mode on Intel cards right now. It is currently kind of
well,
broken."
the highest Intel card isn't very high end, so it's yeah.
Well, the thing is with that card is it actually runs a lot better on DirectX 12 games and it has very good ray tracing capabilities.
It's designed for it's designed for that architecture 100%. But it's still, I thought it's still like 70 series at best, comparable.
I'm really interested to try out this path tracing mode because it's one of the cool things to try out on my 40 series card because I've played Portal RTX and that was a really cool experience.
Oh, you're gonna pick up Cyberpunk?
I don't own the game right now, so I can't play it right now. But I think it went on sale with this update, but it's still only 50% off. I was hoping it would go a bit cheaper, maybe like a 75, 60% off.
When the DLC comes out, I assume it'd be cheaper.
I don't think they would make the base game cheaper for that. I think they're kind of happy with where it is. I mean, it's sold well. So
yeah, but how many more can you sell? If you get a shiny DLC and you can get people to spend like money on a cheaper game and get the DLC, then it's kind of win-win.
VR chat mobile. This is VR news now. VR chat mobile versions are in development. Android coming soon, according to latest blog post. If you don't know, Roblox and Rec Room are already available on mobile. Two other metaverse games, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is cool to see that, we're getting a playable version of VR chat on mobile for people who have like the weaker hardware, don't have access to stuff like a Quest 2 or an Index or something like that. They can still experience this game through mobile hardware. And mobile hardware is much more popular in different parts of the world, especially places like Asia or places like that like massive mobile presences compared to having dedicated gaming PCs or consoles or stuff like that, which is really cool to see. This is what I was alluding to earlier from the VR news. Black Mesa has a VR mod already, thanks to the work that's been put through with these Half-Life 2 to VR mods, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think the way it works, it's not the Source VR team or Crowbar Collective have worked on this. It's being done by a separate modder who worked to get the Black Mesa Source running in VR. But thanks to the work that the Source VR team has done, it's enabled him to, kind of translate that over, sort of thing. I believe. I believe the way it works. I don't know if there's like. The way it works is it's not like interactable buttons and stuff like that in VR yet, sort of thing. It's mostly just you kind of exist in the VR sort of thing. I think it has like hand tracking and shooting, but I believe the way it works is cannot play that. And you also need the Half-Life 2 episode 2 VR version installed as well, because this is running off a modified version of the Half-Life 2 episode 2 engine sort of thing.
Right.
And then this is running off the VR version of that. So awesome to see. I've definitely got to play some of these VR mods at some point because they look fucking awesome. Speaking of VR mods, Team Beef has come back with another project. Jedi Knight 2 has released with a VR port. And this is a Mr. Beef standalone. So this is only available on the Quest 2 right now and the Pico, which is another standalone VR headset. But he said there is a PC port coming soon, TM. So we'll have to wait and see, because I'd be really interested to play this, because I've been playing...
it's very graphic, this game.
Yeah, so people were talking about this was like, I think one of the only Star Wars games that allows like full dismemberment.
Yeah,
like that stuff.
I mean, I'm all for it.
That stuff was like completely cut off with like the Disney acquisition, where they were like, "Oh, we cannot make more of these." But Yeah,
Oh,
really, really cool to
oh my
see.
god, an ATST in VR would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, going. I've been playing like the Dark Forces recently, so being able to go around and fighting as a Jedi in VR. I mean, this just
What?
reminds me of one of the reasons I got a Kinect was I really wanted to play that Jedi game on the
Yeah,
Kinect. And I
yeah.
know that there's the Vader games on the Quest, but they're Quest exclusive, so I don't have a way to play them. But I would love to play a Star Wars game in VR. I think it would be
Yeah, they're
awesome to play.
very good.
And I'm excited for this to
What?
come to standalone VR so I can experience
My
it.
my my question is, looking at this game, when he has the lightsaber, he always throws it. Why was there never a prequel character that just always threw his lightsaber? That's
He
what I
would be the
want
most powerful character. He could never do it.
to
No one
know.
would be able to stop
He
him.
would have like 5 lightsabers. You'd just be throwing them.
Let's move on to business news. Microsoft says it has stopped its Xbox Game Pass $1 trial offer. I'm sure so many people, myself included, have used this offer. I use
Mm.
like the $3 or £3 for 3 months offer that they did, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Xbox Game Pass. I would recommend to most people that do not have a big library of games. And I would say
Hmm.
I would love to recommend it to more people, but currently, I think the Xbox games, the Microsoft Store is not in a state that I would fully recommend it, and
No.
um, for people who use Steam. And I would say if they implemented this into Steam ever, that would be an immediate buy for me. Um, oh, and apparently, Sega is near a deal to acquire Angry Birds maker Rovio for 1 billion. Wall Street Journal reports. So it seems like Sega is buying Angry Birds for some reason.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I guess they're a mobile game that makes money. I feel like hasn't Angry Birds done everything they can with the Angry Birds franchise? We talked
Yeah,
about on a
pretty
podcast a
much.
couple of weeks ago. We basically said um, they had to remove the original free version of, or the original paid version of Angry Birds because it was ruining people's perception of the microtransaction filled free to
Hmm.
play versions. That they weren't buying them as much because they could just get the paid version that was much better.
It's almost as if buy once, I guess mechanics, but business strategy
Surprise
like just makes more
mechanics.
sense. Yeah, people don't like it when if they have a choice. Who would have thought?
But yeah, let's move on to the main news, which was, of course, April Fools was the April 1st, and as always, we like to talk about some of the interesting stuff that gets announced based on April Fools. Not everyone likes April Fools. I forgot April Fools existed this year. I actually completely forgot about it, and I got tricked by some
Yeah.
stuff. I
I
thought,
got tricked after April Fools. I remembered it coming up, but then I queued up some videos and I got a Lego April Fools video. Um, so I was tricked. It was very good. I like April Fools a lot. I would say this year I noticed a lot more articles and things were actually
oh,
adding in very quickly after April Fools that it was an April Fools joke, which wasn't really a thing
um,
before.
I'm just reloading some pages right now, Tony, because
Oh, the new
I
Chrome thing. I
I
turned
turned
that
on the
off.
new performance mode on recently. Do you not like it?
I already use an extension to do it, which is way better.
Yeah,
So
I
no.
was using an extension to do it, and then that extension got like backdoored by some like fucking adware spyware or malware or
Oh
something,
no
and I was
no no!
like,
There's a no no there's a backport of an older version that I then used.
yeah. It was called the Great
But yeah, the original
Suspender or
one.
something
Yeah
that I
yeah.
was
The
using.
current one is called. I'm on the wrong. I'm not on Chrome right now. Hang on.
Yeah. But I
It is
was
still. It's now called the Great Suspender on Chrome.
yeah. I was using that for a while and then I stopped using it. But I liked it because Chrome can be a resource hog. But they made an official mode now called Performance Mode, which you can turn on in the options.
Yeah, they had a trial version a while not a while but last year. I tried, and it
Yeah.
didn't. And the new one seemed to work exactly like that one, maybe a little bit.
Mm.
It seems okay. To be fair, it is more fine tuned. It isn't as aggressive, and it doesn't like
It's not
remove
as
stuff as well.
aggressive.
But I
Uh,
don't like the way it does it still. Because it's what you can get set Firefox to do a similar thing. I
mm,
don't like how it does it compared to the Suspender add-on. I think the way of just like closing it manually closing it down into just like a text window and then being able to control saying like don't do it to this tab I think is very useful or one thing I think is really cool is like very easy to change. I think they need to add more quick settings in Chrome. Is
Yeah.
that you can change very quickly. Like, oh, today I want you to wait 4 hours before you start minimizing any tabs.
I was just gonna say
I
I've been
think this
using
should
it
need more control.
recently, and I thought it's okay. It's not great, but it's not like
The
I haven't
way
run into many issues. You
Okay.
know.
The way I use Chrome, it doesn't work for me, and the suspended add-on or extension, it's just way better the way I want to use it.
Yeah. So one of the big ones was um, Sega released an entire game called The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is essentially a detective point and click game where you have to figure out who murdered Sonic through playing like old Sonic games on a Game Gear in between talking to different characters to try and solve the mystery. I thought this looks fucking hilarious, and I'm so glad Sega actually made something like really cool with the Sonic
Yeah,
IP. This just seems like
it
something they
reminds me
wouldn't
of
normally do, but I
it
just thought it
reminds me
was
of the
really cool.
KFC dating sim game. Kind of
Yes,
just like
that
a
was
fun
another great
idea,
one.
and that was also free.
I always think like if you a lot of people don't like April Fools, like oh people just lie and then it's just dumb. But I think if somebody
Sure,
takes that idea and goes, I never would normally be able to make this idea because people wouldn't get that it's so out there and wacky, and they
it's
go,
a joke.
let's make something interesting and put it out
Yeah,
there, and it's actually
yeah.
something worth engaging with. That's why I like the holiday.
Yeah, there's a lot more creative jokes that you can do. A lot of like warping of like reality that you can do with April Fools that is just not possible.
Uh,
And
but
but
I
I do
haven't.
agree that it should be archived as an April Fools once it's happened, though.
I thought this was like really cool. I think we should do a spotlight of this because I think
Yeah,
that would be a really good video.
I don't think
Um,
from my I didn't listen to it probably, but I don't think it's that long when I was looking
hmm.
into it.
Oh, we'll play that. Apparently, how long to beat says 2 hours and 15
Oh, is it
minutes.
two? That's okay. I thought I saw some people do it quicker, but okay.
Maybe.
Maybe it's a speed
Um,
run I was watching. I don't
oh,
know.
Power Wash Simulator and put a fake screenshot out of Power Wash Survivors coming soon. So they mix Power Wash Simulator with Power Wash
What the
with
gnomes
Vampire
doing?
Survivors. And immediately after seeing this, I really wanted to play this, which is sort of the annoying thing about April Fools when
Yeah. But sometimes, okay, to be fair though, sometimes they're like, oh, this got a lot of like positive feedback. We'll actually add it as like a funny
I knew it was
add-on.
fake when they said it was launching exclusively on Stadia and the Ouya platform. So this one was kind of sad as well. Dolphin announced that they would be adding Steam achievements to the Steam version of Dolphin, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." And then they were like, "April Fools, we got you." I was like, "Oh, I wish this was real. Having Steam achievements for Dolphin would legitimately be good."
Yeah,
But they went on to say in the release, they were saying um, maybe we will be offering something like Steam achievement. Um,
interesting.
so I guess what they're saying is they might add retro achievements. So retro achievements are a thing that basically add its own third-party achievement system into older games. I've used this in stuff like RetroArch through my emulation and Emudeck. It's a really cool system. It adds optional achievements to your older games that you can install on the installation step of Emudeck. And I think it's a really cool system to be able to go back and I would go back and play my old games. Like I would go back and I would play Ratchet and Clank on the PS2, and I would play the entire game in first-person mode, which is not something I would recommend to most people. But the reason I did it was because I just wanted to play it in a different way, and that's something really cool achievements can do. They can go, "Hey, play this game in a different way and see what kind of experience you get out of it," which I think is a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2 added a brand new arcade game mode that had an entire list of fake patch notes with a real game. So they gave every single character googly eyes, um, but they
Is that for
updated.
all game modes?
Yeah, googly eyes in every game mode, but they had an arcade specific game mode where essentially they updated every character and gave them their own unique ability. I've got to say, I have never had so much fucking fun on Zenyatta in my life. What what they did was Zenyatta's passive is when enemies get near him. He's got a passive called Snap Kick, where essentially he deals more damage with his kick and he kicks his enemies back really far. Um, the funny change they made for April Fools for this one game mode was that every time he jumps and kicks, it sends him flying into the air, and it was so much fucking fun playing as Enya. I would just fly across the map, throw balls at people, fly across the map, and it was so much fun. Like Arissa has an E ability where she spins her spear around, and they were like, "We're going to make it so when you spin your E around, you essentially become a helicopter and you can go flying through the sky. And then when you press your shield button to make yourself get more armor, we're going to increase your gravity, and if you fall on people, you'll deal fall damage." And
That's
it was
so
like,
cool.
I was like, some of the stuff they did was like super creative. I thought it was such a great idea, and I
Yeah.
had so much fun playing this game mode.
There
So
should be like a new character that does like a stomping thing. That'd be really cool.
because we've seen stuff like League of Legends did Earth for the longest time, where they basically reduced all the cooldowns on the characters, and they had this like really fast, fun game mode that was super, super popular. And I love stuff like this where every April 1st I'm like, oh, I hope this game mode comes back because it was really fun to play, or I'm excited to see what's next from these guys because they had some really interesting ideas. Hearthstone Battlegrounds they added a Boulder Fist Ogre, which was just a 3 tier that was a 6/7 and nothing else. Like it was really like boring. But the funny thing was if you tripled it, instead of usually when you triple a minion in Hearthstone Battlegrounds, it combines the stats. If you triple Boulder Fist Olga, it would stay as a 6/7, and then this flavor text would read 6 attack and 7 health is already perfect for the tavern tier of this minion. So they were just trolling you. I thought that was so funny that they took this game, they just made like a really small change to it, but it was so funny in the context of the game that I was like, that's a good shit post basically from Blizzard there.
Yeah, that's good.
Minecraft did a fake vote update.
Okay, this one was like, do you remember the Minecraft 2 April Fools from like 2014 or something like?
No, you'll have to explain that one to me.
That's when they, okay, colored glass is in the game, right?
Yeah.
In Minecraft 2, it wasn't in the game, and they added colored glass in like a really janky way. They then added it later. I'm getting some of those vibes from this April Fools.
They're gonna add the vote update to
but there's some
Minecraft.
There's some really cool stuff that you could do in that, and there's like some really crazy rules.
If you
don't go to the moon.
If you don't understand the joke, is for the longest time Minecraft has been allowing the community to vote on the next content update they want to be added through mobs or different biomes to be added to the game. Essentially, they in this fake April Fool's joke, they were like, people just love voting. We should just add an update that just adds more voting.
Yeah.
Let's make everything voting.
But they added, they went hard on like what you could do with the votes. It's kind of insane, like what can combine with what.
Oh, we should have talked about this in releases. Minecraft Legends came out, and I haven't seen anyone talk about this.
I have not seen anything. But Joe, have you not seen Minecraft the Moon?
Did it come out, or has it not come out yet? Hang on, let me check. Let me check. Because I saw a review thread, but it might not actually be out yet. Oh, it comes out in 2 days. Okay, so we'll talk about it next podcast. Good, because I want to.
But have you not seen the moon?
The moon. Where's that in the?
Yeah, you can go to the moon. You can go to the moon.
Oh,
it's not in the trailer. You can go to the moon. You can bottle up air, and then I think you feed the bottled air onto a cow, and I think it goes in different stages, and eventually it just starts going up. And I think if you attach, and then if you can then ride it, you then go to the moon, or you can attach. You have to vote for a lot of these things to make it work. Yeah. Or you can attach yourself to lots of bees, and then you'll just like start rising like an up, and you go to the moon. But you need air to survive, so you need to bottle up air. And it's like a really cool structure. Oh, and the moon is made of cheese, but you eat it in like little 8 cubes.
Wait, so they made this as a snapshot?
Oh yeah, they always do.
I thought it was just like a trailer joke. I didn't know it was a real thing.
No, they made it. They made it.
Oh, okay.
Like it's you could run it on servers, and the voting actually works.
Wait, so if we played it on our server, we would all have to vote on a new feature, and then it would be added to the game.
Yeah, there's like a voting screen, and like new votes get added every few minutes.
That's fucking hilarious.
It gets insane very quickly. after the podcast, I'll send you a video, a couple of videos that the guy I watch for new stuff for Minecraft. Like he kind of
But
went through and
there was
showed
always a
all of
big
it.
thing in modded Minecraft was people always wanted to go to the moon because it was
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's every like crafting game is like the next stage is going to like there's the Factorio mod that lets you go to the moon.
oh yeah,
There's tons of mods where it's just they add that extra level. Like, what if you got
yeah,
off this planet and went somewhere else, and it always adds more
yeah.
content.
My issue with is that there's a couple of mods that add different planets, including the moon, to the game. My issue always is like it is just another dimension. Like you need, and they don't ever add enough to it.
Mm.
I actually think that is okay. The April Fool's up or snapshot, like, the moon isn't like super impressive, but like it's still more. I'm more interested in what it did than the mods that add moons do normally. So
Yep.
that's kind of
Next
interesting.
up
But yeah,
we have
I'll send you after the
yeah.
podcast.
Next up we have our trombone champ for its April Fools added a 2 times speed, so you can. I just thought it'd be hilarious because I was struggling with Through the Fire and the Flames at 1 time speed. I was struggling at like half speed. Through the Fire and Flames on trombone champ at 2 times speed. That's gotta be fucking impossible.
That's when you get the you get the AI to do it.
Um, but they added the 2 times speed or turbo mode, and they added a hat in the character creation stream. They added hats to trombone champ, and they added 2 songs, Danny Boy and the Hall of the Mountain King. So they are
Uh,
still
Are these
adding.
real? Like, is this still in the game? Can you still turbo mode?
I don't know. Actually, I assume I think so. They added like a assist mode, which was a big thing
Okay.
with. There was a mod called Auto Toot, which is
Yeah.
essentially just toot the song for you, which is like an accessibility thing. They've just
Yeah.
added it as an assist mode now to the
That's
game.
cool. That's really cool.
Um, oh, H3VR. If you don't know, H3VR stands for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. It's the letter H 3 times. I always get confused when I say H3VR because I think they're talking about Half-Life 3 VR. But hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades always does a crazy April Fool's update that's real. I think Meat Fortress was an April Fool's joke. I'm not 100% sure. Let me look up the
Was
trailer
it
release date.
okay?
It came out in June, okay. But they always do like crazy April Fool's updates that are real. Do you remember the game Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yes.
In that game, Shadow the Hedgehog has a really unrealistic MP5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
For this April Fool's update, he has recreated the MP5 from Shadow the Hedgehog as an actual gun in the game,
What? Okay.
which I think is
Interesting.
hilarious. The gun makes no sense.
No.
But he's recreated it, and because that was the thing I found the most fun was when I was playing the Meat Fortress update in H3 was um was trying to figure out how the comedic TF2 guns were actually supposed to fire because the physics of the
Yeah.
guns make absolutely no sense in the real world.
It's really cool they thought about it. Yeah.
And as well as the Shadow the Hedgehog's MP5, he also made a railgun that fires essentially Pringles or
Oh
potato.
my god, that's
Yes,
Prungles.
Porkless.
Porkles.
Yeah, which I think is
That's great.
hilarious, given the fact that it's powered by potato chips, like physical potato chips you put in, but it's just a fucking railgun, so it doesn't need the potato chips. Um, just super funny.
I like that. That's good.
Domekeeper announced a Drillbit mode.
Drill bit.
Yeah, so Drillbit is basically a artifact you can find while you're playing Domekeeper. Is like a gadget you find, and he's essentially a little companion you get, which will drill for you, but you have to keep like waking him up, and you can feed him to make him go faster.
Oh,
But
okay.
as an April Fool's mode, they made a specific Drillbit mode where you would always start with a drill bit and you would just keep finding more drill bits.
Okay.
And drill bit's one of my favorite gadgets. I think he's like a really cool thing. Um, and essentially, what they did was they made it so it was a mode where you would have a drill bit, but you would have no mining ability, so you would have to rely on your drill bit. So you would basically turn the game into a survival pet management game.
Yeah,
So I was like, that's super interesting.
that is really cool. So is this another mode that still persists after the April Fools?
So essentially, what they did was they made it so if you could unlock it in the month of April 2023, but if you wanted, and once it was unlocked, it was yours to keep forever, so you could go back and you could play Jailbird mode.
Right.
But you could also, for anyone in the future reading this, they said if your computer believes it's April 2023, you can unlock this mode. So they're essentially saying if you set your
Right.
clock to April 2023, it's like an Easter egg. You can unlock this game mode, which I think is pretty
It's
cool.
not calling their server, it's just like internal to the game that just checks for April 2023.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
Escape Simulator made a shitpost about using Escape GPT, a brand new way to solve any puzzle with a click of a button. So you essentially, instead of hitting a hint button to figure out the puzzle, they were going to use an advanced AI to help you figure out the escape room solution, which I thought was a funny topical shitpost.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
Postal Brain Damage did an update. I believe it's a real update. They
But
made
the point that you never asked for.
They made the piss rainbow colored. Yeah, I think this is a very Postal thing, but yeah, this is something that they did. Oh, and
I've always wanted this.
Conan Exiles made like a fake dating sim thing.
Okay.
But I believe that is the end of the podcast. Let me pull up a Petermology tweet and then we'll end this because it's been a long one since we've been so long since we did the last one. I was holding back some news from the previous one. Imagine a game where you plant a seed to move a robot. Want to turn it clockwise? Plant a clockwise seed. Wait a few more days and feed the robot the produce. The more it eats, the more it rotates.
So you're basically growing like programmable commands.
I guess, yeah.
That's not a bad idea. As long as you can store them for later. I guess you can store it on the plant itself.
You can check us out and everything in between at everything in between podcast on YouTube. That's our handle. Twitch.tv/Scorn if you want to watch live. At Scorn1000 on Twitter if you want to follow me there. And shows.acast.com/everything-in-between-podcast. If you click on the episode link, there will be links to Spotify and Apple Podcast on there. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.